Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Oh, no time for that. We got to get going. They were late. The Discount Comic Service had a power outage over the power weekend, and they had like a holiday with a holiday outage. We got to get our previews episode in because by the time it drops, you will have just days to get to your local Friendly Hood comic books shop and tell them these are the cool things that Crazy Comics and Stories recommend. And so we don't have time to mess around. Let's just get right into it. We'll start out with who's in the front of that. So grab your catalog. Previews, September 19th. Jump to page 42, which is not just the Answer to Life universe and everything. First thing I'm going to recommend is Family Tree. It's writer Jeff Lemire, artist Phil Hester, Ryan Cody, and I'm just going to read it. When an 8-year-old girl literally begins to transform into a tree, her single mom, troubled brother, and possibly insane grandfather embark on a bizarre and heart-wrenching odyssey across the back roads of America in a desperate search for a way to cure her. An ongoing series, plus Image gives you 3 pages of artwork, so you can kind of judge for yourself. And this one actually looks kind of interesting. I don't know if I'm going to buy it as a series or pick it up as the inevitable graphic novel, but it's definitely one I want to point out. Mr. Strode, what do you got up for your first one from Image?
No, hello. No, I'm fine. How are you?
No time for that.
No foreplay whatsoever?
No time for that.
No wonder your wife's so cranky all the time.
We got to go in dry. For example, on page 46, Undiscovered Country #1 by writer Charles Soule and Scott Snyder, and then artists Giuseppe Canocoli and Danielle Orlandini. And in this special oversized first issue, which is pretty cool because it's still $3.99 price, readers journey into the near future and an unknown nation that was once the United States of America, a land that's become shrouded in mystery after walling itself off from the rest of the world without explanation over 30 years ago. When a team seeking a cure for a global pandemic breaches U.S. borders, they quickly find themselves in a struggle to survive this strange and deadly lost continent. Again, 3 pages of art to get your whistle. Series premiere, and again, I mention it because this has got my attention. Not sure if I'm going to do issues or a graphic novel, but I'm definitely going to be picking up on this somewhere.
Fine. The one I was going to talk about first is a book that I wasn't even interested in until I started seeing people on Twitter, a lot of comic artists and creators really pushing this book. Not even the creators, other people. And that's Killadelphia #1. It's Rodney Barnes and drawn by Jason Sean Alexander. When a small-town beat cop comes home to bury his murdered father, the revered Philadelphia detective James Sangster Sr., he begins to unravel a mystery that leads him down a path of horrors that will shake his beliefs to the core. Okay, cool. You know, I like my crime stories. I like it. Wait a minute. The city that was once the symbol of freedom and liberty has fallen prey to corruption, poverty, unemployment, brutality, and vampires. As happens. Again, you get some art. The art is beautiful. Just really cool art. Right after that is Olympia, a mini-series
before you do that,
Cory, I'm going to get as a trade.
This ties into what we were talking about last episode. I don't know how they got the Twitter storm going, but you got to promote your books. And the fact that you mentioned it and that it caught your attention on Twitter, you've just gotten 2 sales by somehow doing this. I don't know if they released copies or it just happened that way. You got Cory to buy it. Now you got me to buy it. That's the power of publicity. And that's why you need to use these tools. A lot of them we talked about last, and we'll be talking about it later on as time goes on. Don't count on just the previews. If you're, Rodney, Jason, go to your friendly neighborhood comic store. Say, hey, I got this series. Would you be interested in the signing? Would you be interested in stocking extra copies? This is what's going to do it. And then, like Cory said again, he's going to mention the next page.
Well, the next page is Olympia, which is a 5-issue miniseries, which means I'm going to buy it as a trade paperback. But I wanted to point it out. Kurt Pyers and Tony Pyers, art by Alex Daito and D. Cuniff. Ellen is E-L-O-N. Elon is a latchkey kid who spends his days alone reading comic books until his favorite superhero comes crashing off the page and into reality. And if you look at the first page that they give as a preview page, they use the Kirby dots. And that's enough right there. Also, I want to point out that they are reprinting some of the early Image trades that have sold out. First one is Die, Volume 1. Now, this is kind of a standard trope where it's a bunch of teenagers who were playing Dungeons and Dragons, got sucked into the Dungeons and Dragons world, had a bunch of adventures, and came back. Well, not all of them came back. And now it's 20 years later, and they're called again. What I like about this is, yes, there are at least, the Dungeons and Dragons TV series had that plot. There were book series that had this plot, but this does it very differently. It gives it kind of a dark turn. It's 20 years later, so people's lives have not gone the way they thought they would. And things happened in the Dungeons and Dragons world that they have never told people. It's by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans. And it's a great book, great way to get in on the ground floor. Then on the next page is a book that I love by Chelsea Kane and Kate Nimsiek, Man-Eaters. Adolescent girls can be real monsters. Maud is 12, which is just about the age where some girls turn into flesh-eating wildcats.
Yeah, we can attest to that.
This is a fun, phenomenal, well-written book that kind of pokes its finger in the eye of the people who said that Chelsea Kane was too much of a feminist writer by saying, "Oh yeah, you think my stuff on Mockingbird was feminist? Baby, you ain't seen nothing yet."
I have a question for you. Now, it
Sure.
talks about 12-year-olds. Is this appropriate for 12-year-olds?
No.
Okay. I ask because, it's Christmas season, and I'm going to be alluding to that as we go through. And, these are books, due out September, November. And, I have a 12-year-old niece, and I thought, well, this might be something she'd be interested in. She's into Harley Quinn. She's into
Little
things
too
like
violent.
Yeah, that's exactly what I need to know. So, cool.
Joe, what's next on your hit parade?
That's it for Image. I mean, other than the regular stuff I buy, I didn't see anything to tweak my interest.
Oh, you're not buying Walking Dead anymore.
Well, I thought of it. But,
it's not listed this month.
I'm waiting for the Omni Compendium number 5.
Dark Horse. What you buying at Dark Horse?
I got 2 things at Dark Horse. One I'm definitely buying. Draw your attention to page 102 if you're playing along in your previews. Crone by Dennis Culver and Justin Greenwood. The sword's savior and champion of men, once known as Bloody Bliss, is now nothing more than a reclusive old crone. Does she have the strength to answer the call for one last adventure? A single page of art, which is very beautiful. Come on, Dark Horse. You can do 3. Don't let Image in your dust. Again, a mini-series. I'm always never sure if I'm going to buy it as a book or a mini-series, but with Dark Horse, I don't mind buying the mini-series. I'll just hang up.
They've also announced that there will be stuff in the comic that won't be in the trade.
Which is actually a refreshing thing, because when we get to DC, they're doing stuff where, I already have the comics, but we're adding something extra in the... forget it. We'll talk about it when we get there. I am not buying it because I'm going to wait for the trade, but ElfQuest is back. The Beanies are doing their magic again in ElfQuest Stargazer's Hunt. And they had a final quest, but that doesn't mean there's more stories that they can't tell. So you ElfQuest fans, head over to page 94 and let your friendly neighborhood comic shop know that you want to buy it, because if they're not sending up their orders by the time this podcast hits, they'll be doing it in the week. So, and that's pretty much it from Dark Horse. I mean, I'm buying a lot of stuff. I just, I'm concentrating on new things to get your attention. How about you, Mr. S?
They are doing a reprint of one of the classic graphic novels in the 90s, and one that I really think that this was kind of an important book, both for the creator and for me to become a fan of the creator. We've got Facts from Sarajevo by Joe Kubert. Joe Kubert is one of the best known and beloved artists. He created the Kubert School, worked for DC forever, actually started in comics back in the 40s. He was one of those artists whose work I appreciated but wasn't in love with, because most of what he worked on when I started reading DC was Sergeant Rock, and I was not a big Sergeant Rock fan. I wasn't a war comic fan. But Facts from Sarajevo is set during the Bosnian War, when there were, I don't know if people remember, but when Bosnia and Serbia were fighting each other, there were concerns that this war would spin out of control, much like World War I did. And when we entered the war, this is the only war that I can think of where the U.S. had no casualties from combat. There were 2 casualties from a plane accident, but none of our soldiers died in combat. It's one of the success stories where they were able to depose the dictator in charge of Bosnia, who was then brought to the World Court and tried for genocide. Joe Kubert had a friend who was an art dealer of his who was trapped in Sarajevo at the time, and the only way he could communicate out was via fax. And what Kubert did is tell the story of what came through on those faxes, what stories he was being told about what was going on there. And it was a time when, even if you watched U.S. news, we only had CNN at the time. There was not a lot of news coming out because of the clampdown, and they didn't allow reporters. So everything we got was second and third hand. So highly recommend this. On page 115, there are a couple omnibuses. The first is the Tomb Raider Omnibus Volume 2. These omnibuses are just reprinting the Dark Horse Tomb Raider stuff. And I really wish that they would do an omnibus of the Top Cow / Image Tomb Raider, because that was back when you got a lot of the good girl art. But if you're into the Tomb Raider comics, they're doing an omnibus. The one I'm interested in is right next to it. That's The Witcher Omnibus. The Witcher is a series of video games based on Polish myth. And I didn't know anything about this until when I get home from work, I will turn on one of those list videos that they do on YouTube. 10 greatest blah, blah, blah. And this was 10 greatest role-playing games of the last 10 years. And they went on about The Witcher and how it was so fascinating. And now I'm interested. So rather than go back and try and dig up all the old comics, nope, I'm just going to buy the omnibus. And then the last thing I will bring up is on page 118, What's Michael? The Fat Cat Collection. What's Michael is one of my favorite manga ever. It is by a cartoonist, Mako Kobayashi, and he does stories about his cat, a fantasy world for his cat, a world where the cats are businessmen. These are just charming, beautifully drawn, wonderful cat stories. When Dark Horse originally put these books out, they were like 80-page volumes for $10. Well, now here's a 520-page volume for $20. One of my favorite manga and highly, highly recommended. And that's it for Dark Horse.
And of course, the Dollhouse Family, #1, written by Mike Carey. And of course, I think one of the reasons why I'm looking, art by a local guy, Pete Gross, and Vince Locke. And again, we just read right from the solicitations because it's better in their words than ours. On Alice's 6th birthday, her dying great aunt sent her the birthday gift she didn't know she always wanted. A big, beautiful 19th century dollhouse, complete with a family of antique dolls. In no time at all, the dollhouse isn't just Alice's favorite toy. It's her whole world. Soon, Alice learns she can enter the house to visit a new group of friends straight out of a heartwarming child's novel, The Dollhouse Family. But while the Dollhouse family welcomes her with open arms, in the real world, her real family life is much more complicated. And deep within the dollhouse twisting halls, the black room waits. And there's an offer to Alice. The house can fix all this. The black room says all she has to do is say the words. I'm like, okay. Plus, it's a 6-issue miniseries, and you know me, I'm so fickle. If you guys have been listening to me over the last 9 years, I hated omnibuses. Now I love omnibuses. I hated this. I love that. I'm more attracted to a miniseries lately. Maybe mainly because it's finite, and if it sells well, it might continue. I kind of like that. I don't know why it is. I don't know. We'll psychoanalyze me some other day. But that's the first one on the list for me. Let's go round robin for a bit. What you got next, Cory?
For DC, the first thing that I want to point out, again, they've got the 100-page giants listed. This time it's Batman Giant, Swamp Thing Giant, War Giant, Wonder Woman Giant, and Crisis on Infinite Earths Giant.
Now, these are the ones that the art is going to be different with the direct market?
The cover will be different.
So it'll be interesting to see for you variant hunters, which, if anything, on the eBays, jumps up in the price. Will it be the mass market version or the direct market version? Buy them both. You never know.
And I had to go to the Walmart last night because Superman 15 and 16 will finish the Tom King story. They're not going to be in comic shops. They're still, for some reason, part of the Walmart. I had read DC's Twitter said they were available at the Walmart. The Bleeding Cool had pictures of them. I go to the Walmart. No, they've still got last month's books. But we are already starting to get these in comic shops. I guess next week the Scooby-Doo will show up. But if you turn the page. Green Lantern Black Stars. With issue 12 of Green Lantern, I guess there's going to be some reality-changing thing, and now we're going to get a 3-issue miniseries by Grant Morrison, where reality has been rewritten, and instead of Green Lanterns, there were Black Stars.
And I believe this flows out of the regular Green Lantern series. So if you're buying the Green Lantern series, you will already know about this. But if you're looking for a good place to jump on, that might be the place to do it.
And anytime Grant Morrison's playing with alternate realities, you know it's going to be weird and fun.
See, when you said turn the page, I thought you meant go from Dollhouse to the book I was going to point out, Far Sector, which is under DC's Young Animal, which it's again, I'll just read it. It's N.K. Jemisin, the acclaimed award-winning author of The Broken Earth and Inheritance science fiction trilogies, makes her comic book debut and drags along best-selling Naomi artist Jamal Campbell. So they thrust you into a sci-fi murder mystery on the other side of the universe. The synopsis is, for the past 6 months, newly chosen Green Lantern sojourner Joe Moline has been protecting the city enduring. It's the city enduring, a massive metropolis of 20 billion people. The city has maintained peace for over 500 years by stripping its citizens of their ability to feel. As a result, violent crime is virtually unheard of, and murder is non-existent. And of course, in this maxi series, that's about to change. This is an absolutely brilliant idea, DC. We've been told they have so many Green Lanterns out there. How many? 8,412? Is that how many sectors there are?
3,000.
3,000, okay. We could do stories of them. They used to do it, Tales of the Green Lantern, where you could bring in people and they would take some of the old favorites, and we've been introduced to them over time. Why not get some writers and say, here's the concept, go for it. There's a shop in Eau Claire Wisconsin that I had to give kudos to the owner because he took action figures, repainted them as Green Lanterns, which was brilliant. Just think of any action figure you can think of. Luke Skywalker, Mickey Mouse, Superman as a Green Lantern. Why not make some decent miniseries or regular series out of this? Because you don't have to, we're always going to love Hal and John and Guy and some of the other ones. But this is just such a brilliant idea. I point this out. I probably won't buy it, but I definitely going to be looking for the miniseries, the inevitable graphic novel. So I hope DC continues this. And again, just don't spit them out to spit them out. But if you can get some top name and top artists to do it, I mean, I got to admit, Cory, do you got a Green Lantern story in you?
Not really, no.
Okay, well, I do. So DC, contact me. Forget about Cory. We'll let him wallow in his own stuff. Just a great idea, and I hope you guys jump on it.
I am excited about the Legion of Super-Heroes. I actually had a freaking a while back that DC had not done a Legion of Super-Heroes book. Although,
listen to you.
Although I did pick up the Millennium Legion of Super-Heroes,
Yeah.
and boy, that was a good Rose and Thorn story. But where's the fracking Legion of Super-Heroes if you're going to put them on the cover?
I wasn't that down on it. I guess to me, I understood it was kind of they're trying to weave all the weird DC histories together. So I'm kind of like, okay, impress me.
Don't put a character as the title of the miniseries if you're not going to have the characters in the miniseries.
You sound just like the guys who bitched and moaned when I told them, guys, you got to buy Thanos Quest. Why? It's nothing to do. No, trust me, this is going to pay off later. This is Bendis. Come on, there's a payoff coming.
Right.
So hell, I'd even go back and reread the Superman because I've been out.
Here. Let me refute you. Who was the lead character in Thanos Quest?
Didn't matter. Nobody cared.
Joe, who was the lead character?
Didn't matter. Nobody cared. They cared when Infinite Crisis came out.
You're missing my point.
I am ignoring your point because I reject your argument for why this book isn't as good as you hoped it would be.
Why not
Plus,
call it
I listen to
why not
everybody.
Call it DC Future? Why not call it any of that stuff? And it leads to the Legion. But if you put
because
the
none of
Legion
you Legion fans,
on it,
none of you Legion fans would have picked it up then.
Wrong.
Nope, I say you're wrong.
Picked it up as a trade paperback when it came out, or et cetera, et cetera. Or if they said in that, but I'm sorry, Joe, if I pick up a Legion of Super-Heroes book and it's a Rose and Thorn book, that's a bait and switch.
And I listen to you guys bitch and moan about this online. Oh my God, there's no Legion, there's no this, there's no that. And I went back and this leads up. Maybe Prelude, if they put Prelude to Legion of Heroes. There, we've solved it. But to me, this, and the difference is that everybody, unlike the Thanos Quest where people ignored it in mass, everybody's buying this book, and like most people are, they're just, there's no Legion, they're bitching about it. I'm like, well, I don't know. Let's see where it goes. The 2 issues, and if there's a payoff, now granted, we may revisit them when issue 2 comes out and goes, you know what? It was a good story, but had nothing to do with Legion. But I think it's kind of interesting because I go off Alan Moore's theory that all stories happen. And the fact that DC's trying to tie it all together, I think is more interesting than we're going to ignore Commandy and Time Cop and all this other crap. What was it? I can't think of it. The guy who had a monkey and drove a taxi around the universe.
Space Cabbie.
Thank you, Space Cabbie. I know you'd know it. But regardless of that, and I'm on board with Cory, Legion of Super-Heroes 1. I'd say page number, but DC doesn't like to put page numbers on all of their
pages.
Yeah, so I mean, go to page 18, which is Tales from the Dark Multiverse, which I'll talk about in a minute. Go back to, and there you got Legion of Super-Heroes.
The next page is one that the question, the Deaths of Vic Sage, and I like the fact that what they're saying is this is kind of the a callback to the Denny O'Neil, Dennis Cowan question series, which was one of my favorite series of the 80s. And normally I'd go, they're just trying to recapture Faded Glory and everything, but it's drawn by Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz. I'll read I'll read a toaster manual if it's drawn by Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz, and then they give some of the penciled art down below, and it's I'm on board.
Yeah, as long as we're going forward, I'm going to point out two that I'm not buying. But if you're into the dark multiverse stuff, this is they got two: the Blackest Night and Infinite Crisis. Where I'm guessing in the dark multiverse, the Blackest Night and the Infinite Crisis ended up a lot differently than it did in our universe. The reason I point this out is because Marvel has milked this theme over and over. Age of Apocalypse, House of M, and I think if you're really down with it, this would be two series that might be kind of fun. Whether they lead into something else, we don't know. I mean, if you're reading Justice League, there's a big ass fight going on right now about this whole thing. So I give them kudos on that. I don't think I'm buying them but I just wanted to point them out because who knows, we might see these characters pop up somewhere else. I.e., if you're a speculator, these would be the ones you might want to pick up.
The rest are all just continuing series. So
okay,
there was nothing that exploded for me.
There's a couple other ones I'll point out, and it will go back. And this one actually has a page 10. I'm not buying it, but I'll point it out. If you're a He-Man and Masters of the Universe fan, He-Man and Masters of the Multiverse, 6-issue miniseries. Again, I think they're DC's going big with this multiverse fan. Whoa, from the days of Crisis on Infinite Earths, DC's now embracing the multiverse and all the fun it could entail. So if you're a He-Man fan, this might be a one to pick up. Across from it, John Constantine Hellblazer, and it's Black Label. So, I mean, that's as good as saying Vertigo to me. And I believe this is an ongoing series. Size Superior, Art Aaron Campbell, and not a one-shot this time. So I believe this is, back. The original Constantine is back and all his bastardy goodness. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for me in series as well. How about the Wily World of graphic novels?
Oh, there's all kinds of good stuff back there.
I know, they're killing me. I have to work a little overtime.
I am a huge fan of Howard Chaykin. And one of the series he did back in the 80s, DC had such huge success with Dark Knight that they used the Prestige format miniseries to kind of reset a number of characters, one of which was Blackhawk. And he did a 3-issue Prestige format series called Blackhawk Blood and Iron. And it led into an Action Comics Weekly series. There's a book that was a huge failure by Marty Pasco, which followed up on it, and then there was another like a 12, 13 issue series. It didn't do real well. I just remember it was by Pasco and Rich Burnett that continued the story. But the 3 issues by Howard Chaykin are phenomenally good. It's never been collected. The Pasco stuff with Rich Burchett is okay. I'm not going to say it's great, but it's good. So I recommend this book. I also wish that they would reprint the Mark Evanier, Dan Spiegel Blackhawk series, which was phenomenally good. Dan Spiegel was one of the greatest artists to ever work in comics. He mostly worked at Dell, which is why most people don't know his work. He did tons and tons and tons of movie adaptations. He worked on the Blackhawk series with Mark Evanier, and then he did Crossfire with Mark Evanier. Joe?
I'm looking, on page 72, one that I am very curious about. The very first DC comic reprinted for the first time. Famous First Editions has a new fun #1 hardcover. It's on the list. It's a $20 hardcover, and I'm thinking this might be kind of fun to look at. I bought the one that Marvel did years ago, where they did their very first comic, and of course this is the one that got us down to the road we're doing. It led to this national treasure of a podcast right here. If you could have gone back in time and said, guys, you got to publish this because in 2019 we're going to have just a kick-ass podcast talking about it. So who knew? I mean, and of course, there's no time travelers because otherwise they'd have gone back and picked up all these issues. Well, here's your chance to own one and at least take a look and see what all the fun was about. I like reprints like this, and it'd have been more cool. Well, what are they talking? This is the 85th anniversary of DC Comics, so that's pretty old stuff.
Right above that is Mr. Miracle by Steve Englehart and Steve Gerber. I love me my Steve Gerber. DC actually brought back most of the New Gods characters after Carmine Infantino was let go from DC because Jeanette Kahn, who was the new publisher, looked over the old sales figures and went, wait a minute, this book was selling almost as good as Superman. And they said, well, yeah, but the returns were it was only having a sell-through of 35-40%. They were like, well, that's because you were publishing more copies than you were of Superman. So they brought back the New Gods and Gary Conway and Don Newton did that.
Oh, that's
did that recently.
Could you imagine that's like a what if? What if they hadn't canceled it? Oh, my heart hurts.
Well, I go into all the different ways Kirby was going to continue it in my audio biography, not an autobiography, an audio biography of Jack Kirby. Go out to the webpage, just click where it says Jack Kirby. You'll see all the podcasts I've done on Jack Kirby.
Oh, okay. Well, you keep talking. I'm going to go check this out.
But this is by Marshall Rogers, Michael Golden. That's enough right there, kids.
Yeah, Golden. You had me at Rogers with Golden.
And Jim Aparo. And Rich Buckler.
A journeyman.
It reprints the continuation of Mr. Miracle, and then all of the Brave and the Bold stories, and then the DC Comics presents team up. Brave and the Bold back then were Batman team ups. DC Comics present were Superman team ups. My only thing is it's $40 for the hardcover, and it's only 216 pages. So that kind of, but I'm gonna buy it. Joe.
You got $50?
Depends.
I mean, it's retails at $100, but I've been raving on and on about how if you took War of the Gods and you lined them all up in the order they were supposed to, and back then it was easy because they put a little triangle on the top. So as you're busy reading, say Legion 91, and all of a sudden you got to Legion 91 number 31, it had nothing to do with the story you were reading about. But they shoehorned in the War of the Gods crossover. So you'd be reading that one issue and go, what the hell's going on? And the next issue back to normal. But if you had lined up War of the Gods, which would have been really, really difficult because was it number 4 or number 3 and 4 that shipped?
3 and 4 were late because the artist of 1 and 2 joined the military, didn't tell DC, and just wasn't turning in any pages because she was in boot camp.
Yep. However,
there's a way to. DC has given you their huge summer crossover, which probably would have gotten the biggest royalties. And nah. I'd rather have another job. Well, you're going to tell the people that you're working for that you've quit? Nah, I won't bother.
Here's your chance to find out if I was full of shit or not. Wonder Woman, The War of the Gods Omnibus. Everything's lined up in it. It did not, unlike some of the other crossovers we've talked about, cross into, what would you call them, licensee books. Right. So everything is here. And as far as I know, for the first time, because the other reprints I've picked up of War of the Gods don't cover the entire series. And I don't know if you got $50 to spare, Cory. This is one that I would recommend if you've never read it. And George Perez wrote it, and a lot of his crossovers, his parts are in it. But to me, it read really well as an entire thing. If I recall right, that aforementioned Legion 91 was Lobo, for whatever reason, was taking a break from the War of the Gods, ran into Captain Marvel, a.k.a. Shazam, at a bar. And this is pre-New 52, so he was kind of Billy Batson, and he was very polite, and Lobo wanted to fight, and Shazam was just not giving it to him, which drove Lobo up the wall. And if I remember the scene that Lobo was banging his head on the bar, grr, grr, grr. And then here you go, Lobo hands him 3 beers. That's better. And then, of course, as you all know, Lobo goes a bit too far, and fight ensues. That's not even a spoiler, is it? And that's just the middle of the miniseries. So, anyways, I recommend this one if you've never read it, and if you happen to have the ability to drop $50 on it.
The page before that has another omnibus. This is the Superman Batman omnibus, which reprints the series that gave us the new version of Supergirl. So there is art here by Ed McGuinness, Michael Turner, Dustin Nguyen, written by Jeff Loeb before Marvel hired him and put him in charge of all their TV shows. Mark Verheiden, who has worked at Dark Horse and a lot of different TV series. I loved this series. I thought it was incredibly well done. And the art, DC was just, who could we put on that will sell? The Michael Turner stuff is beautiful. And then Ed McGuinness right after that. Of course, all of these stories now don't matter because they were pre-New 52. But it's still, this is an excellent read. I'm excited about this one. And then that's really about it for DC that I saw.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I did check out Prometheus Deluxe Book 2, the Alan Moore epic. I did not buy the other deluxe book. Apparently, I'm buying it in paperbacks whenever they publish them. So, again, kudos. I like it that DC puts when the original Volume 1 was done way back last year. So I was able to go back and check and make sure. Nope, I'm waiting for the soft covers on that. Which brings us to the next person? I suppose they are. Corporations are persons now in this here world. That's what I think of that. IDW. And for me, IDW's got a couple things I wanted to point out. Not necessarily things I'm going to buy, because again, I write down what I'm interested in, then I got to go back and budget it. On page 136, and I got to tell you, I don't have CBS access, but I am so ready to buy it when this hits. Star Trek Picard Countdown #1. That's pretty much all you need to know. My guess is this is probably a prequel to the series. But if you're so prone, there it is. It's ready to go. It's first of a deluxe 3-issue miniseries, so they're pulling out the stops on that one. Let's see. I got to go back a little bit to page. Oh, I guess I'll let you go next, Cory. I got to figure out what I can't read. Common secretarial complaint. Cannot read my own handwriting.
There is another Glow one-shot. Glow versus the Babyface. I also got news on Friday. Glow has been renewed for a 4th and final season. So they're going to wrap up the story, and I thought the end of season 3 was a good finale for it, but I guess they're going to go forward. I'm excited about that. I also want to point out, how they're doing the Marvel Action books, which are the kid books for Marvel characters. There is a Marvel Action Classics Ant-Man's book, which just reprints some of the Marvel Adventure stuff that Marvel was doing in the 2000s. So they're already dipping in, and it's like, we'll just do a reprint. And even though those Marvel Action books didn't do well, I think Marvel has gotten more than their money's worth out of them, because they've reprinted them in digests over at Archie, in trade paperbacks, in books for Scholastic, and now they're reprinting them over at IDW. So hopefully those people who worked on them will still get a royalty check, because their first one would have been, this is a pretty low page rate. Now it's like, this is the 5th time the damn thing's been reprinted. But really, for me, with IDW, that was about it for the new stuff.
Yeah, same here. All right.
Although, again, if anybody loves me, they've got those artist editions, such as the Walt Simonson's Mighty Thor, the Basil Wolverton, the Dave Gibbons Watchmen.
Cory.
No one loves me.
Well, nobody loves us because we have yet to get a Wikipedia page. But
even though we are a national treasure.
I know, but Festivus is coming up, so we'll save it for then.
Well, you won't be around for Festivus again. I think you plan your surgeries so that you don't have to do the Festivus show.
Whatever gave you that idea? All right, on to Marvel. I made one mistake when Brian Bendis was doing Avengers, and you know what that was, Cory?
You didn't buy the big hardcover books as they came out the first time?
No, because I bought the comic series, but I didn't buy his spin-off series. Never bought Mighty Avengers, never bought Dark Avengers, and now only at the tail end do I realize it was just one continuous story. I will not make that mistake with Hickman because I am jumping on board New Mutants 1 and 2. Now, Marvel's got having the same problem with X-Men that I always chide them for. All of a sudden, you got Power of X, House of X. You got everybody excited. You got Hickman doing X-Men 1. The very next month, X-Force 1 and 2, Fallen Angels 1 and 2, Excalibur 1, Marauders. It's like, oh my God, all these X books are exploding. And I don't have the budget, Marvel, to buy them all. I'm not going to buy them all. I may not even read them on Marvel Unlimited when they come out because you're just going too fast. I don't know. I can't believe after only the second issue being solicitive of the main Hickman X-Men series that these are naturally evolving out of the core book. And that's what you need to do. Remember way back when New Mutants came out, it flowed out of the regular book. The X-Men were thought dead. They were out in outer space fighting for their life. Xavier was so distraught that he reformed the New Mutants. And then, of course, when
there was another reason for that.
Well, yeah, Marvel's probably got tons of reasons. But what was it?
Basically, they had been putting the squeeze on Claremont.
Oh.
Saying, you've got to do another X-Men book. This thing sells too well. And he said, okay.
But they did it as a graphic novel.
Right. But what it was, he had been, you know how Shooter wanted books to be like they were in the 60s?
Mm-hmm.
Shooter was putting tons of pressure on him to make the X-Men a school again. And he was like, but all the characters are in their 20s. We've gone beyond that, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, he knuckled under to the pressure and did New Mutants. So it's okay. Here they are. They're going to be in the costumes. They're going to do this. They're going to. The reason Kitty Pryde was brought into the book was to sort of try and get Shooter to leave him alone. Because, okay, fine. We have a student in the original costume. Not good enough. Not good enough.
And, I hate to tell you, from a reader standpoint, Shooter was right. Oh, we were all over this thing like Oprah on canned ham. And I'm going to rest that for a while because I hear Oprah's coming to town. And as much as I would love her on this podcast, I don't want her to smack me. So.
Well, why don't we offer her canned ham?
Ooh. Oh, we'll talk off thing. We'll see what happens here.
Okay.
Anyways, as I was alluding to, New Mutants 1 and 2. The only thing that I'm buying it for, again, it might be too soon, Hickman's writing it. So you got me on board with that. The other books, I may come back and go, oh, you know what, I screwed up. I probably should have picked up Fallen Angels. But just too much, too fast, too soon. Again, X-Men's got 5 billion characters to it. I understand you can't have them all in one title. But, you're just not making me excited for this. Although with Hickman on board, I'm pretty much excited with whatever he's doing. So that's my first choice from Marvel. How about you, Mr. Strode? What's got you going for your first book?
Oh, let's see. Flippity, 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 flip. Oh my God, Annihilation Scourge.
Yes.
I'm happy that they reprinted the Annihilation Omnibus.
Yes.
to
Oh,
hype
I'm on that.
this,
Yeah.
because that was one of my white whales. That thing was selling for $500-600.
Yep. It's good that Marvel does that and they see, hey, this is selling. Maybe we should reprint it. Although I doubt they'll ever do Marvel Secret Wars 2 again.
But I'm excited about this. I love Marvel Cosmic. I've already seen the lineup for the books that are going to be spinning out of this, and they're doing it the way they did the original Annihilation, where it's, here's the book that kicks it off, here's a mini-series about these characters, and then it'll tie into a mini-series to finish it. And really, the Marvel Cosmic has kind of gotten out of control again, so it's good that they say, okay, we're going to kind of do a jump start on Marvel Cosmic. Donny Cates was doing his big story, which ends in Guardians of the Galaxy number 12, which wraps up everything he was doing so that they can move forward on this. So I'm excited about a new Annihilation.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I enjoyed the first one. It was kind of a fun read because, back on Earth, everything was wrapped up in the Civil War. And that was, to me, also brilliant too, because they didn't bring in the Avengers to help save the day because they were busy fighting themselves on Earth. And there were a few, like in the Nova series, which is volumes 1 and 2. I just got number 2 I'm reading. And, when Nova came back to Earth, he was like, oh, you got to register. What the hell are you talking about? Do you even know what was going on in outer space? Oh, we've been having this little fight here. So again, I'm ready for just anything in Marvel Cosmic. I look at all the little series and so much that's out there, and you could make them just like I was raving about with the Green Lantern. You've got all these characters, just use them. Let's have some fun, and this looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm on board.
The next one I want to point out, I have discovered that Tom Brevoort does not know everything, Joe.
Reboot.
Because I asked him.
You're saying we need to reboot the reboot?
I asked him toward the end of last year if they were going to do anything with Max and Icon. And he said, nah, nothing on the horizon. It looks like those are dead. But I guess Garth Ennis came and tapped him on the shoulder and said, I'd really like to do another Punisher series. Okay!
Here's some money, please. And me, I'm like, take my money, please.
So we're going to get another Garth Ennis Punisher miniseries. Art with Jason Burrows, who's mostly known for his work over on Avatar. And one of my problems with the Avatar stuff is that it's inked as if it is color. Their black and white books are inked as if they are color books. So they don't spot blacks. They don't use line weight to give the art more depth. But looking at this, his art works so much better with color. It's very clear that Jason Burrows is somebody who his art needs colored. And there are some people like that. There's some people who, when you look at their art, black and white is very flat. But when it's got color, the colorist is the one that gives the art depth and gives it more, I don't want to say substance, but it gives it more of a grounding. And looking at the sample pages, these are great sample pages. So, and it's Garth Ennis on Punisher. Come on,
had me.
Come on, man.
Are you a 2099 fan, Cory?
I'm interested in this. I remember when 2099 came out, I picked up Spider-Man 2099. I was like, oh, wow, This is awesome.
And then Peter David wrote it.
And then I picked up Ravage 2099, created by Stan.
And Stan Lee wrote it.
Oh, wow, this is shit.
Yeah. But then Doom 2099, which was interesting.
One thing I liked about Doom 2099 was when Warren Ellis took it over. I thought Fantastic Four 2099 was by far the best book. By far. Because it was this, is this our Fantastic Four? and where in continuity are they coming from? And it was by Carl Kessel, who has a deep, abiding love of all things Kirby and is one of the greatest writers of Kirby characters. That book I liked. I liked X-Men 2099 for a while, but it went off the rails hard. So
here's your chance to maybe revisit it, because they're doing a 2099 event. It's through Amazing Spider-Man, and only has an Alpha Omega that you can buy if you're into the issue. But then they have a bunch of tie-ins, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tie-ins, $4.99 a piece. I don't know. I may wait for the paperback that has them all in there, because it'd probably be a little cheaper. But that's the only other event I can point out. Everything else at Marvel, and again, I'm buying a lot of Marvel, seems to be going well. Those were the big new ones that I was all excited for. And again, a lot of what Marvel's doing, I look at the characters, I look at the teams, and I'm like, I don't want to commit. Mobius, yeah, I'm sort of kind of interested, but not enough. Deadpool, another Deadpool #1, whatever.
Joe.
Yes, sir.
Star Wars 75.
I saw that.
The final issue. And then what it is,
it's a trap.
They're wrapping up the story between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. So in January, we're going to get another Star Wars #1. We don't know where it will be set. But they're basically wrapping this up because they're saying, okay, we're finishing up the story between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back.
And more importantly, in the previous issue, we're going to find out what happens when Chewbacca takes on Lord Vader himself in hand-to-hand combat. Oh, dude, I'm drooling. That cover, assuming that's the cover, I'm dying on that one. That looks outstanding.
Back in the collected editions.
And we're heading there.
House of X and Power of X is getting a nice hardcover.
More importantly, I'm finally getting it. I've been bemoaning the fact that I do not have a Marvel's collection in my collection. And finally, I knew it was coming. Marvel's 25th anniversary hardcover. This is the one that has all the material from the Marvel's annotated, which is what I was waiting for. When I saw them do the annotated issues, I thought, you know what? The hardcover is coming. That's going to have all this. So if you've never read it, how dare you?
It's also going to be oversized, which means
with extra.
It's also got that Marvel's epilogue, which was a new story that is fantastic. But it's oversized, which means the art is going to be showcased much better.
Oh, I know. I mean, the two big ones for me in the Alex Ross collection are always going to be Kingdom Come and Marvels. And so I'm really, really excited about that.
I'm also picking up the Marvel Comics 1000 hardcover. Again, this will be oversized. It's going to have 1000 and 1001, as well as some behind-the-scenes stuff.
I'm on the fence with this one just because, I had bought 1000, 1001, but this has plus extras. That's like add bacon. Yes, just add extras. It always makes it good. But
Joe, do you want to feel old and weird at the same time?
Are you on page 107?
No, I'm on page 109.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, now. Oh, okay. I'm going back to page 107. No, go ahead. 109, then I'll talk.
Marvel Masterwork, Dazzler.
Now you youngins don't understand how amazing Dazzler #1 was, because this was the first time, at least as they were presenting it, that this book would only be available in the direct market. Dazzler had appeared in X-Men and appeared in Amazing Spider-Man. And I don't think anywhere else, just those two. And people were chomping for Dazzler. So they decided, okay, we're going to do a Dazzler book, #1, only available in direct market with a painted cover. And when it hit, it went off like a tsunami. People went nuts. And
then they read it.
Yeah, but because then issue, can you imagine the poor schlubs on a newsstand? I got an issue 2. Where's issue 1? I'll put it back. But the best part of Dazzler was the painted cover. And of course, they put X-Men, Iron Man, some blonde chick. Yes, I know who it is. Spider-Man. Why a Masterworks? I am perfectly happy with the essentials I have. But
Joe, I do believe this also reprints the story where Dazzler defeats Galactus by singing a song to him.
Yes. Which, had Squirrel Girl been there, would have been more plausible. But, hey, I just retrocon something. Cool. Anyways, no, I go back.
Every issue, inked by Vince Colletta.
Okay, I'm going back to page 107. Power Pack Classic Omnibus Volume 1. This is one of those that, I'm an Omnibus guy. I'm really into it. And hey, I don't care if I flip-flopped. When you're right, you're right. And I don't have these. I don't think there ever was a Power Pack Essential. And I don't feel like digging through I don't even know. I'm going to go look up and see what number one's going for on eBay. But I think these are still in the realm of the quarter box. I think I'm remembering it because Louise Simonson wrote it, and there was a really good crossover with Thor during the Fall of Mutants storyline. And I do have the Thors in paperbacks, which I read and reread yearly. So for me, I enjoyed the heck out of this series now.
I loved this book.
And she wrote the kids as they were kids, not just smart mouth adults with power. Get it? And that was her last name, Power. Get it? Power Pack. Oh, the things I'm realizing after 35 years. A lot of crossovers that go through it, including the Uncanny X-Men, the Thor that I mentioned, the X Factor. They do have Marvel graphic novel Cloak and Dagger Power Pack number, I guess, Shelter from the Storm. I don't know what number the graphic novel was. And I enjoyed reading this when it first came out. I don't know if I'm going to go for the direct market artist variant or just that classic cover that number one came with. So, but yeah, this one's definitely on my list to buy.
They also have the Amazing Spider-Man by J. Michael Straczynski, Omnibus Volume 2. This has the classic story, One More Day. There you go, kids. They are reprinting.
Could he have two classic stories after they did the one where Green Goblin fathered Gwen Stacy's kid?
Yeah, I think that one's in this too.
Okay.
Or that might have been in the first one.
Even J. Michael has disavowed those stories. So, it's good when the creator is like, I kind of bowed to pressure on that one. Well, did it anyways. Took the paycheck, but I did it anyways.
One More Day, he bowed to pressure. Sins Past was his idea through and through. He actually wanted the kid to be Gwen and Peter's kid, but thankfully, Joe Quesada said, no.
See, I would have bought that better than Green Goblin rapes Gwen Stacy and they sire a kid. I mean, to me, that to me, and again, what was it called? Mopey, the DC.
Yeah,
person,
the person who caused the Flash's origin.
Yeah, to me, I mopied this that the Green Goblin used some type of pheromones that he had to trick her. Still rape in my book.
Okay, Joe, do you remember the story that spun out of it where Peter Parker was attracted to one of the two kids Gwen had?
Oh, dude, why did you make me remember that?
That was plotted as if Peter was the parent. So, yes, thank you, Joe Quesada, for saving us from an incest subplot.
Well, it could have been worse. They could have kissed in the second movie. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm flashing forward to Star Wars. Oh well, Disney's in charge. They would never have anything as distasteful as that ever happen again.
They also are reprinting the Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender, which is one of the classics of the 2000s. This is a fantastic series.
Now, Cory, do you know anybody who has never read any X-Men stories in their entire career, their entire life?
Oh, yeah, tons of people who don't read comics.
Okay. Buy them the X-Men Children of the Atom box set slipcase. For a mere $500, or maybe pre-sale for $250 on Discount Comic Book Service. And this has everything, including crossovers. I know Gruber bought one of these, and his complaint was, and I forget which one it was, that these books are slightly smaller than your average graphic novel. So, and he was disappointed because he was thinking, oh, the regular graphic novel size. But they all fit in a box set. They're all slipcase. And believe me, if I did not have my essentials, my omnibuses, the original issues, this would be a damn fun collection to have because it goes all the way through John Byrne, Chris Claremont's run. Well, starting from the beginning by a couple hacks. What were their name? Lee. I forget, whatever. Never last. And it didn't. But yeah, this would be the entire thing all the way up through Uncanny X-Men 143, including any of the crossovers. And the last one, of course, has Phoenix, The Untold Story, which is good to find on its own, and materials from Foom, Not Brand Eck, and all sorts of other stuff. So, yeah, these are fun little things if you got the budget for it and you got friends that you want to impress and say, what, you never read X-Men? Well, here's a set. Read it. I'll talk to you tomorrow. That was a quick one.
Let's see. They are still reprinting the Marvel Visionaries books. If you do not have these are great introductions to classic Marvel creators. They've done Stan, they've done Jack. This month it's the John Romita Jr. and the Chris Claremont books. These are great samplers for if you don't know this creator or I buy them so that I've got their, quote, best stories.
Page, well, I guess it's 138 because they didn't bother to put a little blurb on it. If you haven't read it, Loki, Agent of Asgard, the complete collection. A lot of fun. I love complete collections because they are complete collections. And this is Loki, Agent of Asgard 1-17, Original Sin crossover, and the all-new Marvel Now .1, the goofy magazines that are just spin-off magazines into other magazines. So I definitely recommend that.
They're reprinting a bunch of the epic collections that have gone out of print, such as the Cosmic Adventure Spider-Man, the first of the Iron Man, the first of the X-Men, and the first of the Silver Surfer. And the Silver Surfer epic collection is all the stories that took place before he got his own series. But then flip the page, there's the New Defenders, which reprints the end of the Defenders.
Which I may do just so I can get rid of those issues out of my collection. I mean, I've got the essential books that only go to a certain point, but then I could, epic collections, if they weren't so damn expensive, I would load up on these things. When we went to Mind's Eye, they were doing the 70% off sale. I looked at every epic collection and I was like, oh. I was drooling. But
I love the epic collections. I wish they were the essentials, but we're not going to get the essentials.
Even if they were $10 cheaper, I mean, I don't know the cost involved, if royalties, glossy paper, whatever, but $40 a pop, even at half price, you get a lot of good reading.
It's 400 to 500 pages. The Avengers one, this shows why in the 90s people got so fed up and were dropping comics. Okay, here's 400 pages of the Avengers, and it's literally one story.
Yeah.
So it's Avengers 360 through 368, the annual, a mini-series tie-in, a magazine that had stuff, etc., etc., etc. But flip the page, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Marvel just wants my money bad.
They're
reprinting the two Spider-Man magazines from the 60s.
Yeah, which if you've never read or you don't have billions of bucks to buy. We talked about white whales. These were white whales to me because I knew about them because when you got Spectacular Spider-Man at the time, Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man, it was like volume 2. And I thought, really? Where's volume 1? It was 2 magazines. And again, they were you probably know the history of them, Cory, but this was back when Marvel doing their magazine fetish.
No, this was before that. This was in the 60s when Martin Goodman was still selling tons of what they called, Joe, what are they called? Men's Sweat magazines.
Oh.
And they had one that was packaged by Marvel, but Marvel didn't put their name on it, called Pussycat, which were kind of R-rated comedy spy stories about a woman with huge gazongas drawn by Bill Ward. And they said, well, why don't we try Spider-Man in this format? And Stan, on the first one, put John Romita Sr., who hadn't been penciling Spider-Man in a while. It was Jim Mooney was doing it, and Gil Kane was doing it, and Romita would go over them because he was kind of the art editor. And it's like, nope, John, I need you. You're the best artist. It didn't sell well, so in the next one, it was, well, Stan got his brother, Larry Lieber, who's an artist, I guess. So, but then on the next page.
Well, before you get too far ahead, I want to point out another complete collection of stuff I've never read, or if I've read, it's only been here and there. Tigra, the complete collection.
Yep, that's on the next page. You got.
Oh, well, you had MODOK right above you. I thought you were talking MODOK already.
I was going to talk both because they're both.
Because I see when you said
money.
When you said take my money, I thought, okay, he's talking MODOK, and then you swerved into Spider-Man. But I'm sorry, I'm way ahead of me. Go ahead, MODOK. M.O.D.O.K. Cory, tell the good folks what MODOK stands for.
Mental organism designed only for killing.
Shouldn't that be MODOK?
The O doesn't. The F isn't used.
Okay, sorry. That wouldn't
but
be
this is
MODOK.
one of Marvel's weird, goofy characters from the 60s that people have just latched onto, like me, because it's like, oh, this is so fun. And this reprints most of the serious MODOK stories and some of the not-so-serious ones. And then underneath it, Tigra, the complete collection. Joe, it isn't just a complete collection of Tigra.
It's the cat.
It also has the cat. Now, in 1972, the Equal Rights Amendment was passed by Congress, and there was a whole lot about women's lib and women's rights, and Marvel jumped in and had 4 series that tried to jump on this trend, and they were all written by...
Are you telling me there were social justice warriors way back then?
There have been social justice warriors.
I'm shocked.
Since 1937,
How does that
Superman
explain...
would beat the crap out of coal mine owners.
So I'm shocked. I'm shocked to tell you to discover that actually I'm not shocked because I knew that. I'm just mocking you. You know
but
who
if
you are.
Look, the cat was written by Linda Fite, who was married to, I think, Dave Cockrum. I'm not 100% sure, but she was married to someone in the office. Then, after that was canceled, by the way, Joe, one of those 4 series, Night Nurse.
Oh my!
She mutated into a werewoman. I think Tony Isabella did that one, and he's very proud of that.
Werewoman, their castle.
And this reprints all of the solo stories that have been done of Tigra. So Marvel really just digging through the archives here.
What's fun?
And we like them for it.
We do. That's it for me. You got any other gems you want to point out?
Not in Marvel.
Okay, now like on Gilligan's Island and the rest. I don't even know where we start.
Dynamite.
Please don't sing.
Oh, I was told not to sing. Sorry. I will point out on page.
I'll sing. Dynamite.
Sorry. If you're into Vampire She on page 190, Marvel, you'd think it's Marvel. Dynamite has a Bill Tucci Vampirella #1 exclusive covers. These are collectible things. The lowest one's $25. They go all the way up to a $200 one. And again, if you order like Cory and I do pre-order, you probably get a discount. But point these out because Billy does do some awesome. He's a woman artist, and I always enjoyed the She series that he did years ago. Let's see. But that's page 190. Page 194 for you discerning collectibles and if you have a friend who is possibly a boys, either a comic book reader or from the Amazon Prime original series, which I watched in its entirety and I absolutely loved, or you just have a guy who collects $2 bills or other money scripts, it's the Boys Collectible Homelander $2 bill. This is legal tender. Comes with a certificate of authenticity. And although I probably will not buy it, I've just found it so goofy. This is the type of stuff I would have bought from my comic shop just because I really, I mean, you can walk in and go, what the living blue hootie did you buy now? And if that's not enough,
I would like to let you know that it's $25 for this $2 bill.
I did point that out. I think
$25.
But in the world of collectible
money, right. But
that's,
it is legal tender, so
if you get strapped for cash,
buy it for $25.
You can spend it and probably get arrested, because I've heard stories of people trying to use $2 bills and millennials think, "Oh my God, that's counterfeit."
It's not just millennials, Joe.
I know I used to love $2 bills when I got them, either working at Sears or I put them aside. And what I like them for is to use them as tips, because it usually impresses the waiter or waitress. If you're a Joseph Michael Linsner fan, he's got some highly desirable collectibles out as well. 30th anniversary limited edition promo cards, a Dawn costume various artist proof statue, and how do you say it? Glicklies? Fancy posters on higher print. So, but again, these are high-end collectibles. Maybe we'll see some other stuff from Joseph, since it is Dawn's 30th anniversary. But other than that, I got nothing. No regular series, no mini series I'm buying from Dynamite. Just looking at other really goofy collectibles they're coming up with.
There was one thing I saw in Boom that I was in.
Rocko's Modern Life on page 220.
That's Rocko's Modern Afterlife.
Aha! See, Cory's paying attention.
Something is turning the good people of O-Town into mindless zombies, and Rocko wants nothing to do with it. He barricades himself and Spunky in their home. They're determined to outlast the hordes outside, but desperate times call for desperate measures. When Rocko's best friend, Heifer, becomes infected, Rocko will have to risk it all to save his friends and his city.
I mean, you had me at Rocko's Modern Afterlife, so again, one of those licensed products. If you loved the TV show or even bought the previous comic, you got to jump on board.
Then we get into everything else.
All right, should we round robin this?
Well, I want to point something out first. Remember last month when I said, hey, look, they're doing a Conan book, but they're calling it the Cimmerian.
Oh,
and
man, that's going to be a big-time collectible. I ordered multiple upon multiple copies of that. I'm going to be blunt. That's my retirement fund on the eBays. I'm just going to – I got all the variant covers, too, including the retail incentive covers. This is going to be so hot. I recommend everybody, take your child's college fund, blow your inheritance, just buy as many of these things as you can.
It ain't coming out.
Son of a...
I have learned the story behind it as well. What this is a reprint of a European series where over in Europe, Conan has been public domain for a while, so they were adapting the stories for a European audience, and they were going to import them into the U.S. Well, while the stories are public domain, the character is not. And this publisher was hit with a cease and desist letter, and they decided they weren't going to fight it. They just are not going to reprint these books. So remember how I said, I wonder where these came from. Now we know where they came from. They are reprints of European books, but they will not be coming out in the U.S. So Ablaze Comics will just have to go back to printing Vampire State Building. There we go. So, Joe, what jumped out at you in the everything else section?
Cory Strodeisms for 2,000, please. All right, since we're not going to get...
Flamin' Blue Hootie.
Oh, it's close. It's in the same company.
But that's a Cory Strodeism. Flamin' Blue Hootie.
I thought it was Ablaze, because that's the series across from the now defunct The Cimmerian.
Yeah, we talked about that already.
It's called Unsacred, and Angelina, a voluptuous angel, and Damino, a mischievous devil, are madly in love. But while she does not intend to give in to temptation, he would very much like to. And this is a tale of the bizarre and spicy daily life. I'm like,
Spicy.
okay, that's goofy enough to give it a shot. And it's a new series, and it's got variant covers. I'm looking at probably variant cover A or D. I haven't decided. I think I'll probably go for it. Sounds fun. I just and sometimes I like fun in my comics.
Fun.
So,
Comics aren't supposed to be
they're
fun.
not supposed to be fun. How dare
They're
you?
supposed to be serious and you're dealing with life and death. And how dare you? How dare thou?
And Pope molesters and nun cheaters.
Ooh,
So
nunchucks.
I reckon no chucks.
Ahoy Comics has a new Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man miniseries starting up. I love the first one. I will love this one. They also have the collection of Bronze Age Boogie, which means I'll finally get to read that one. I love Ahoy Comics. Everything I've read from them, I have enjoyed a lot. Joe?
I'm going to jump us to two publishers in one, because on page 294 is Drawn and Quarterly. There's a couple books that I've mentioned in the past that are either being reoffered or reprinted. Scenes from an Impending Marriage by Adrian Tomine, which I absolutely adored. Woman's World is on the next page, which I've talked about in previous podcasts. Those are two I highly recommend. But the one I'm going to point out, of course, Cory, have you ever read Blankets from Craig Thompson?
Yes, I have.
Now, do you read way up on page 161, For Real? I'm sorry, wrong one. Ginseng Roots by Craig Thompson.
Is it? It can't be on page 161.
You're right, 361.
Thank you.
Because it's from Uncivilized Comics. And it's Craig Thompson returning home to the heart of rural Wisconsin, including characters that were not in Blankets. So this is kind of like a continuation. And issue 1's already been solicited. But this is issue 2. And I pointed out because if you did read Blankets, you probably want to go hunt down. First of all, you can pre-order issue 2. But go back and look for issue 1. And then, of course, above that is For Real, which is a, again, kind of a war story. But there are essays that elaborate on various issues in relation to Kirby's biography. And I wanted to point that out because I don't know if Cory saw this or if that would be enough to get him to plop $6 down to buy this. Because James Romberger is doing this, and he's doing a lot of short stories that they basically, these are battles fought in different eras by the great cartoonist Jack Kirby. And so,
I saw it, but I thought $6 for a 32-page comic was just, I just can't.
and you know, Cory loves his Kirby.
Yeah.
So,
But you jumped way ahead.
well, I just pointed that out because if you hadn't read Blankets, Cory and I both give it a thumbs up, and then there's the Ginseng Roots that ties into it. So, I mean, again, I'm going back to the D, but I wanted to point the two out because if you read Blankets or if you've read Blankets and you totally missed out on Ginseng Roots, here's your chance to catch up and make the world right.
I would like to go back to page 290.
Dun, dun, dun.
Chapter House Publishing is publishing American Daredevil, The Battles of Lev Gleason. This is not for everybody, but it sure is for me. Lev Gleason was a comic book publisher who published one of the biggest selling comics of all time, Daredevil.
No, not the Lee Kirby Daredevil.
No, not the Lee Kirby Daredevil. Well, Kirby didn't work on Daredevil.
Yeah, he didn't work on Daredevil, I know.
It was the Bill Everett. But at the time, Daredevil was one of the greatest selling books of all time, to the point where when the character fell into public domain, Martin Goodman actually came down and told Stan they needed a Daredevil book. So he created Daredevil because Avengers was, no, what was it was late? No, they created the Avengers because Daredevil was late. Ditko finally finished it up, but drawing very much like Bill Everett. But when it came out, Mark Goodman was upset, and he said, no, I wanted a Daredevil book. Well, it says Daredevil. No, I wanted you to use that character. That character has gone public domain, and we need to own it, because back in the 40s, it sold millions of copies. But this is the story of Lev Gleason, who went out of publishing because of the crusade against comics in the early 50s and the Red Scare. He was accused of being a communist. So I'm looking forward to this one. I don't know as much about Lev Gleason as I should. A couple pages later, on page 294, Anthony Daniels has written his autobiography called I Am C-3PO.
Cool.
So there's that.
Speaking of books, go back to page 288. There's a couple I'm going to point out. These aren't books I'm buying, but if you're a Matrix fan, the movie, there's a 20th anniversary deluxe edition hardcover from Burly Man Entertainment. And they have two different covers you can buy, a Previews exclusive cover or the normal Trinity cover. And this basically reprints the all the comics that they had in the Matrix with stories by Neil Gaiman, Dave Gibbons, Bill Sienkiewicz. If you've never read these, or if you're just a Matrix fan, this would be something you definitely want to point out.
They were printed online, and then they were put out in 2 trade paperbacks back when the second movie came out. And now they're reprinting them again because Burly Man is reprinting all their old stuff.
And if you go up where you see Doc Frankenstein, a postmodern Prometheus, when I had Crazy Comics, this was such a hot book that I ended up scoring, I think, it was issues 1 through 3 or whatever, and they sold out like crazy. People couldn't get enough of it, so naturally it was never finished. And here's your chance to get the whole series plus the final chapter in a it's a hardcover for $35. And I remember reading it. I could not recall it just off my memory, and I know I don't have any copies of it. But this would be one to pick up because it's written by the same team that worked on the Matrix, wrote the Matrix. How do you say it? Wachowski?
The Wachowskis.
Wachowski. So, again, it was really hot back in the mid-2000s. They're reprinting it, so it might be worth checking it out.
If you go to page 310, first you'll see that the new Dogman book will be available in comic shops. But on that same page, Graphic Imaging Technologies. I mentioned this a while back. Valiant is putting out all of their stuff on jump drives. So all those original Valiant books, all of them are on the first one, and that's $75 for the complete collection of everything the original Valiant put out.
And it was good stuff. It was good reading.
And then they're also offering all of the books they published between 2012 and 2018 on another jump drive for $60. I jumped on this because Valiant, the original, I found a little dull and plodding when Shooter was doing it, but I do want to go back and read those because...
Oh, it sold like hotcakes, so...
Yeah.
Oof.
And the new Valiant is one of those where it's, okay, I would have jumped on it, except, okay, here's 8 books. Here's 8 $3.99 books to start our new universe. Oh, God.
Now, when you get your box of comics, don't be so fast to throw it out because they're coming on, USB flash drives.
Yeah.
Hopefully they put it in a big, nice box package so you can, oops, I threw it out with all my package stuffings. Cory, I got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
Do you like Frank Zappa?
Yes.
Do you like adult coloring books?
Obviously.
Well, then I got something for you back on page 306. The Frank Zappa coloring book softcover. an officially licensed coloring book. This is not a knockoff or one of those unauthorized things. It's packed with original art that will delight Frank Zappa fans. 72 pages illustrating and celebrating the greatest composer, musician, futurist, and innovator, Frank Zappa. Packed with humor, muffins, and references. I'm not a coloring fan. I am a Frank Zappa fan. I'm actually going to be buying a couple of these because I have a couple of friends who are Frank Zappa fans. So that's a couple Christmas gifts. Yes, we're not too far away from Christmas, Festivus, whatever us of us you celebrate. So now's the time to be looking forward to grabbing some gifts for your the person that you like.
And then if you go to page 343, I am not big on a lot of tie-in stuff, but they've got one here where I just said, of course this would be a great book. The Island of Misfit Toys graphic novel. There are so many ideas in those Rankin Bass specials that you could do so much more with. And the whole Island of Misfit Toys was one of those as a kid where I created stories around them. I thought it was just such a fascinating idea. And now somebody has. So I'm going to be picking this one up. Also on that page is the Shadow double novels. So they are still reprinting the Shadow. They're not done yet because, there were 360 some, I think. I don't know. But still going strong, still selling well enough to continue.
Back on page 317 under It's Alive, I will recommend Breathers #1 by Justin Madsen. Breathers follows a small cast of individuals as they struggle to make sense of the dystopian world they live in. A virus is unleashed into the air, rendering it deadly to humans. Among them, a detective whose addiction to the drug known as Filter K takes over his life. A brother and sister who, due to recent events, start to wonder if the air is really deadly or if it's just a conspiracy. So mother and daughter who will do anything to keep their family together, and a breather salesman who's looking to make amends for his past mistakes. Survivors in this virus-plagued world, they are all breathers. A couple variant covers. I'm going to, what did I write down? I guess I'm going for the cheaper cover just because I like the way the artwork looks. But I don't know about Cory, but we do read, at least I read all the little blurbs for comics and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I like to point out some of the smaller press stuff that kind of catches my attention. For example, I'm gonna jump forward to Source Point Press. A way while back, and I'll give a Joe prize to whoever bothers to dig it up. There was The Ogre, which was a 3 or 4 issue series dealing with a band of ogres, and it blew up on the interwebs. I mean, the issues are just going crazy prices. Well, they're back. So if you want to jump on board and see what it's about, page 346. The Ogres #1, I believe it's a 4-issue series. And I'll just read it. A band of marauders called the Teshar destroy the ogre's village. So a group of young ogres hire an exiled dwarf to help track down these creatures and avenge their kind. I enjoyed the first run. It's available. If you can dig up the original issues, I think it's in graphic novel form. Well, they're back. So let's, here's your second chance to jump on board and have some fun.
The last thing I'm going to point out is actually on the opposite page of one you pointed out, 360. They are reprinting and resoliciting the American Comic Book Chronicles 1980s.
Now, I was going to ask you that. Is that a resolicitation or is that is that new?
It is a resolicitation because it came out, sold out immediately.
Oh, okay.
So they were going to do a reprint, and instead decided we need to go in and fix some stuff. We need to upgrade some stuff. So they did a Kickstarter to kind of finance the printing of this book. So if you did sign up for the Kickstarter, you will be getting yours before comic shops. Otherwise, this will be coming out probably, it says December, but knowing how Tomorrow's works, it'll be January or February. But the Chronicles of the American Comic Book Chronicles is highly recommended for people who want information on comic book history. The one I have of the 40s, actually one of my coworkers who's more into history than comics is reading it. And is just fascinated. And every so often she'll go, I didn't know that Jack Kirby did blah, 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 blah. I didn't know that DC Comics was started by the mob. I didn't know that Martin Goodman was such a weasel. I didn't know. So if you want to know your comics history, this is one of the books that I read so that I know about comics history.
Yeah, I don't think I have this one. I know I got the 90s because... What was the one you bought me? You gave me one as a gift.
I think it was the 70s.
Okay. And the 90s I got because, that's when I had my comic shop. So this is one I'm definitely picking up because I don't believe I have it. And even if I didn't, what you just said, it's good to have the new one. Now, I know Cory's a Transformers fan.
I was going to ask, back at IDW, they have Transformers comic boxes. How many have you ordered?
I actually was forward into Viz Media because they have something I thought was a little more interesting. And if you're a Transformers fan, you might want to look at it. Page 397, Transformers, A Visual History. Two different versions, a standard version for 50 or a deluxe limited for 100. This is, well, I'll just read it. The Visual History, one of the world's most popular franchises. The Transformers has been delighting fans since 1984. Now in this deluxe hardcover celebration, Hasbro reveals behind-the-scenes production sketches, polished final art, and everything in between. From the obscure to the iconic, this book features packing, artwork, animated models, video game designs, comic pages, and for the first time ever, production artwork from all 6 Paramount live-action films. I do not know how widespread this will be. I don't, again, if I had a comic store, we had toys, we sold Transformers toys, we sold the comic, I would definitely grab a couple of the regular and a few of the limited. And if you're a Transformer fan or you have someone who is, and I'll mention this to Julie maybe to get to for Dangerous Dan Moore, this is something you want to point out. On page 417, a Dirty Pair Omnibus graphic novel, a 2-in-1 manga omnibus about the classic science fiction characters. And I'm not even going to slaughter the man's name, but it's basically, you got Kai and Yuri, known as the Lovely Angels or the notorious Dirty Angels, the Dirty Pair, get it? Depending on who you ask, they work as trouble consultants for the Galactic World Welfare and Works Association, the WWWA. But in the pursuit of space-wide justice, they cause space-wide disaster. These were reprinted eons ago by Dark Horse. A lot of fun, beautiful artwork, and I will point it out. If you're not a manga fan, this may be one to pick up. And now for the most popular segment of our show. No, not the end. It's time to Ask the Strode.
Wow, it's been ages since we did this.
Well, I haven't had a lot of dimes lately. Okay, for a shiny new dime, Cory, where did the handbook for the recently deceased come from?
Beetlejuice.
He gets it. He gets a dime.
Beetlejuice.
Don't.
I'm not saying it again.
No, that's like calling down raccoons. Page 109 in the flip section is your chance to get a handbook for the recently deceased journal. Again, so it's blank and you can fill in your own stuff. But if you have a Beetlejuice fan or somebody who's wonderfully depraved, like my lovely daughters, here's a key Christmas gift that you could get them. Yeah, we don't spend a lot of time on the toy side, so I apologize for having to flip the book. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. You gotta work for your fun. That's it for me.
You know who it's not it for?
Harley Quinn by Adam Hughes?
No, these guys, our sponsors. Promotional consideration is paid for by the following sponsors. Our first sponsor is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com has been with us since the beginning. They're the best web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a web host, and you do because, Facebook, Google+, everything gets hacked. But if you set up your own web page, it'll never get hacked. Unless you kind of make some mistakes or pick an easy password like password. But still, you can have your own web page. If you use the code KRAYZ, K-R-A-Y-Z, you get $20 off your first year. When you're at the office, do you often run to the vending machine for snacks? Those things are terrible for you. Instead, have snacks delivered to you. So go to Graze.com. Graze.com has healthy snacks that you can decide what kind of snacks you want, how often you want them, whether they get delivered to you, or if you choose them every time. I myself get the subscription box every 2 weeks so that I have healthy things to eat when I'm at work. You can get a free box by using the code CORYS3R5P. Matter of fact, use that code your fifth and your first box are free. Again, that's CORYS3R5P. If you'd like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network shows, you can. Just send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And there's all sorts of things going on here at the Solitaire Rose Network. First off, Joe is taking some time off.
I am not by choice. Not by choice. I'm trying to get away from Festivus. I got to get my hip done. And so that means you have a rare opportunity to co-host. Not that rare. Anybody could do it. Just call Cory. And be a co-host on this here podcast.
And here's how you could do that. As Joe preps for Hip Watch 2, Electric Boogaloo, I am looking for co-hosts through the month of December. Now, the other thing that we did last year that I really enjoyed, because December can be a very busy month, is we recorded most of our fill-in episodes in October and November. So, if you would like to be a co-host on Crazy Comics and Stories in the month of December, you can! Believe it or not, kids, I am letting other people co-host. If you have a topic, go ahead and let me know. If you have experience with other podcasts, go ahead and let me know. But you can be a co-host. How, you may ask? And you darn well should. You can email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, subject co-host. If you don't have an idea for a episode topic, that's okay. Joe usually doesn't have an idea anyway. I have tons of ideas, and if I know a little about you and what you like to collect, we can do a focused episode like I did with Dangerous Dan Moore when we talked about his favorite character, Thanos, or when I co-hosted with Adam Vermillion and we talked about his favorite character, Daredevil. So go ahead and email me. I'm looking for co-hosts, and I'd like you to be one of them.
Oof, that's a lot of work.
You think that's a lot of work? Look at all these podcasts I'm doing. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network has all sorts of podcasts. We've got Scrabbling Across the West with Dave Caffell and his lovely bride, Stephanie. They travel across the country playing musical gigs, and at night they sit down to play Scrabble and talk about their day at scrabbling.solitairerose.com. There's Novelcast over at novels.solitairerose.com, where I take the novels that I've written and turn them into audio podcasts. Currently, we are doing a novel called Do the Job, which is a murder mystery set in the world of 1980s professional wrestling. Then, over at badadvice.solitairerose.com, me, Cory Strode, and Wolfie B. Bad, along with Dan Moore, give bad advice to people who send in questions. That's Bad Advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network is growing. Be there! You think NBC will get mad I used that? And now we get to Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where he sorts out his pills and tosses them at the bunny.
Here, bunny. No, that one's for me. No blue pill for you.
It's Joe. What's going on the eBays?
We're coming back to the eBays because I've got a major freaking with them. But I'm not going to spoil it here, but I will point out some of the fun things I've sold. One of the key magazines that we sold at my shop was Action Figure News and Toy Review. There were two of them. Tomart had one, but Action Figure News was cool because they had a section inside that what they thought would be good for collectors and investors, because back then toy speculating was really hot. And a lot of times they weren't wrong, because they'd be like, okay, this is the final wave of the Simpson toys, which are some of the most expensive Simpson toys out there. And they wanted to alert you they were coming out. So if you knew you found them sitting on the shelves, those would be the ones to pick up, especially if you're a Simpsons fan. They would alert you to variants, all sorts of things like that. Now it's all online. And if you're looking for prices, I used it mostly as a guide. And I did a lot like I was doing on eBay now. If they said, okay, the pantless, then it's true. Evangeline figure from McFarlane is $20. I put mine at 15 in the shop. So, it's just one of those things you could do. Not around anymore, as well as its Tomor's counterpart. It was also fun because it would give you retrospects of past toys. It would give you glimpses of upcoming stuff, like especially when Toy Fair came around. I've got a few left. They're not tremendously expensive, but they are fun, kind of a glimpse in time. And, some of the information is timeless as well. The prices may be obsolete, but when they show you a breakdown of all the Star Wars toys and all the accessories with it, that's kind of cool. Sold my last copy of the Mighty Thor number 700, which had a Chris Helmsworth photo variant cover on it. I like my Knights of the Dinner Table from Kenzer Company. I don't mention it a lot, but it is one of the books that if I ever were to just say, hey, you know what, I'm giving up comics, I'm not buying them anymore, there's about two I would keep buying. One of them is Knights of the Dinner Table, because I absolutely adore the strip in it, but I love all the gaming information after it. And I'm not a gamer anymore. I don't have a time to do it. Savage Dragon's the other one. I talked a bit about Bananas, the Scholastic magazine that came out in 1978. It was kind of the grown-up version or teen version of the Dynamite magazine. So if you read Dynamite, you could do Bananas. And of course, mine, apparently mice like bananas too, because mine had a little nibble out of the corner of it. Again, 1978, kind of a fun time, and that was kind of my golden age. That's when I started buying comics and stuff. Sold a Star Wars Obi-Wan Anakin number 1 through 5, the 2006 Marvel miniseries. A book I picked up called Tippy Teen number 20 from Tower Comics. Sorry, I need a drink. There was a lot of T's in that. This was one of those. Tippy Teen was America's swingiest teenager, a voluptuous blonde, very much in the Archie mold of things. But
does Joe know what the most famous comic published by Tower Publishing was?
I don't.
The Thunder Agents.
Oh. See, I didn't even know about Tippy Teen, and I picked it up because he had John Lennon on the cover, as well as I think Mick Jagger, some other guys. So this was obviously aimed at teenagers. I don't know if you could do a magazine like this today, but obviously not online, probably. But it was just one of those I picked up cheap, just curious. I read it. We'll come back to that theme when we get to freaking and geeking. Some other ones. I talked way back last year. I bought a book called Gunflint Burning, Fire in the Boundary Waters. Well, I just sold it. Read it, sold it. That's the way I am. Adventure Comics number 432 from 1974. This was during the
Supergirl, right?
No, this was Spectre.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Michael Fleischer? Yeah.
Yep, Michael Fleischer and Jim Aparo.
And a book that a couple other ones, I'll just flip through them quick. Underdog Comics number 1 from
Carlton.
No, this one was American Entertainment. They do retro covers. Yeah, and that's another one. They do a lot of licensed stuff. And I picked it up. It was fun. This one was signed by James Corrick, who I believe was either the writer or the artist. I don't know. Whoever bought it figured it out. Had an Anna Mercury graphic novel, which was a Warren Ellis series from Avatar, which was kind of fun. One more of my little Abner Dailies, volume 20. That was the kitchen sink press run from the 90s. This one had schmooze in it, which were kind of fun. And I think that brings us up to date. In the meantime, I'm still putting stuff on the eBays. And, as a valued listener of this here podcast, you get preferential treatment. So if you see something, want to make an offer, even if I don't have the make an offer icon up. Just send me an email, say you listen to this here show, and I'll cut you a deal. I might include something fun with it. I might deliver it in person. You just don't know. Well, if you're terrified of me doing that, I won't. Trust me. We value our listeners. So check it out on the eBays, KRAYZ.
Wait. So if I order something from you and you've been handing out keys to my house, I may come home and it'll just be sitting right here on my kitchen table.
I could be, although I think you shot your wad when I put you up a dream date for Cory Strode and nobody bid on you.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's not true. You bid on you. Did you have a good date?
I did.
I wish I had screensaver because that would have been fun. Now eBay clamps down on that crap. Back then you could do all sorts of fun things. Come get some. Oh, hang on.
Well,
come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show.
Festivus.
No, not where I eat Jell-O through a straw. No, it's Freaking and Geeking, Joe.
All right. We talked a bit about how the tariff war is going to muck up
our funny books.
Yeah, especially our beloved Omnibus. Well, they are definitely screwing up Kickstarter, especially with some people in the games. What's happening is, these people, they figure, okay, this is what I need to do the Kickstarter. And by the time they do the Kickstarter and they get the money, then all of a sudden they realize the price has jumped violently. And it's really, this could be a downfall of a lot of gaming companies because they won't be able to go through with their Kickstarter, not at the level they originally thought they could. And I believe the rules are they got to refund their money. But I know I'm not aware of a lot of stuff, but I know there's a lot of murmuring in the gaming community about how the golden age of Kickstarter games may be coming to a crash right now because you just can't count on, well, I need $10,000 to do it. Now suddenly you need 20 because of the tariffs. So I got a new Windows update on my computer. I should tell you how much I love Windows updates. I used to have a very nice little small calculator that took up like maybe an eighth of my screen. Well, now I have a calculator that when I jump it up takes about half my screen. An upgrade I didn't want, and I can't go back because it's annoying. When I'm busy doing my eBays, it's one of those things where I like to, how do you say? I'm trying to calculate the lowest price. So
you're doing math.
I'm doing math. I don't do math. I need a calculator. Well, I have a calculator now that takes up the entire frickin' screen. And the sad thing is the other half of the screen is blank. Facebook does this constantly. Oh, here's an upgrade you neither needed or asked for. Every time Cory and I start this podcast, Skype wants to do an upgrade. Oh, just stop it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's why nobody likes your Windows. That's why I use Chrome. Not that I'm happy with Chrome, but that's a different reason. Not that I'm happy with eBay. Oh, eBay just did something to shoot themselves in the foot. You would think with all the raving and the selling and the constant pimping of eBay that I love eBay. And I did. But now I'm not because eBay's decided to do something called managed payments. Cory, what was the number one way you pay for your eBay stuff?
PayPal.
Yep. Well, eBay, and you think this would be good, has decided they need to branch out. So now they have this thing called managed payments, whereas you as a buyer, you can now use iPay, Google Chrome, Bitcoin, Headless Chicken.
Own PayPal?
No, they sold it off.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
And so for you now, if you don't have a PayPal account, it didn't matter if you didn't have a PayPal account, you could have used your Visa, MasterCard, but now you can use whatever payment method you want. Cory, do you remember when I had the shop?
Yes.
Okay, when you use your Visa, MasterCard, debit card, a lot of times it's free for you, but the shop pays a fee.
Usually it's 2%, right?
It varies. I mean, some places it'd be like a 1.2%. Other places, like when I went through the bank, they wanted 3%. It varied. The bank would put the money in my account the very next day. Some of these other payment guys, they would do it in a couple days. Because what they do is what they call micro interest. In other words, a bank, when it sits on your money and doesn't give it to you, they earn interest on that in micro fractions. But when you're talking hundreds of billions of dollars, That's a lot of money to these guys. That's why when you buy something, it's instantly out of your account. But when they refund it, it takes 2-3 days to appear. It shouldn't. And it should just appear. But the bank sits on it because since you're not paying your fee for using your card, that's how they make their money. That's just the way it works. As a brick and mortar store, I expected that. PayPal takes a fee out of it. The difference with PayPal is when you used to pay with PayPal on the eBays, the money appeared in my account instantly. And I had it. I could use it to buy shipping labels. I could use it to go out and have some fun. And believe me, I'll talk about some fun when we get to the geeking. PayPal's decided to do a managed pay. I can't even say it. I'm so pissed off. Managed payouts. What that means, you buy something, you got it. I got to ship it right away. PayPal sits on the money. And I've got stuff in my pending funds from over a week ago. I have sent the merchandise. I have not gotten paid for it. Nobody online likes this because it's, you don't have your money, yet you're expected to ship it before you get your money. They're saying, well, this is a lot like brick and mortar store, and they're not wrong. When you buy something from Target and you use your credit card, Target doesn't get that money instantly. They get it as soon as the bank gives it to them. Now, believe me, Target probably gets it fast, but they're counting on the fact that they're going to sit on it, get that micro interest, and then give the money to Target. eBay's doing the exact same thing. And what's annoying about it is what I just said. For the most part, I've had 7-8 sales on this managed payout, which is fine. I see, I got a sale. It's for $4.99. I'll pack it, ship it out, and then in a couple days, they say, hey, it's available for payout. Overnight, it gets shipped. I get the payout. Except when it doesn't work. Like I said, I've got this one from a week ago for $15 that I've sent out. I have yet to get it. And when you call eBay and you ask them, well, they're just processing the funds. Sorry, this to me is fraud. This is why they have problems with fraud, because the robbers are counting on the fact there's that delay in payment and it takes that long for someone to discover it's a fraud. That's why people keep track of your accounts. Get on daily and check it out, because by the time you notice it, these guys have gotten away with it too much. Is this guy who's sending me this a fraud? I don't think so. It's just for some reason, PayPal now can pass the buck. Where's my $15? Oh, they're processing it. For an entire freaking week, I don't know of any bank that's incompetent. More importantly, your PayPal payment isn't going to my PayPal anymore. It's going to my bank account. I opened up a separate bank account because I don't want PayPal diddling in my regular, I don't want eBay in my regular pay account, because if, God forbid, somebody does fraud the system, and it's happened, eBay can go right in and go, hey, remember that $80 sale? We're taking it back. And then you wake up one morning, you're missing $80, and then you got to go figure out why the hell did you do it. And yeah, there's buyer protections, things like that. But I got no protection from this $50 that disappeared. So again, that comic set that I sent out, I'm not happy with eBay. I understand why they do it. They just turned it more into a brick and mortar store. But whoever's running eBay, just like the last couple guys, they're thinking, oh yeah, this is what we want. They coughed it out. They forced everybody to do it. Nobody's happy with it. Everybody, you got your eBay, well, this is how they do it. That's how they do it. As far as I'm concerned, this segment may turn out to be, guess what's on the Facebook community page? Or maybe I'll go to my old buddy, the Toy Peddler, and just put everything up there, because they don't charge fees. And and again, I'm not bitching about the fees. PayPal took a fee. I'm just bitching about the time lag here and the fact that there's no accountability here, and I got no one to call. And $15 isn't going to kill me, but it's annoying, And now I can't use my PayPal anymore because thank God TCF has free checking. I went and they set up a checking account. But yeah, people, I'm just saying, if you're looking to do eBays, I would say don't, because I don't need the competition. No, just wait and see how this bails out, because I had all these notes I was going to do. Here's how you do eBay's rate. I was going to do a solo Joe. Well, now it's like, you know what? It's become a lot more complex. They're not making it easier, and then, unfortunately, Amazon is making it easier. Epsy's making it easier. Facebook's making it easier. You know, I don't know. Cory, when's the last time you bought something off the eBay?
Oh, a few months ago.
See, when's the last time you bought something off Amazon?
Friday.
Yeah, that's the problem. In eBay, you're not making it any easier. And damn it, I've been there since 1998. The second year you were operating. Maybe within the first year, I don't know when the month you started. But man, they just do these things and makes me mad. All right, enough of me bitching because I got plenty of things to bitch about, but you know, I can't do them all. Festivus is coming, which itself is a freaking. Cory, what are you freaking on?
Joe, remember last week we talked about DC offering co-op?
Yes.
Nope.
No.
They're ending it. They're ending all co-op. Thanks, AT&T, Time Warner, AOL, whatever. Nope.
So what you're
co-op
saying
is over.
Go back to your podcast and just edit out that section where we're talking about co-op.
Co-op is gone. It's done. For all of the talk that DC's editors do about we support comic shops and we love comic shops and we're going to do everything we can to help comic shops. You know what helps comic shops?
Cash.
Advertising. Help with the advertising. Anything you can do to help them make ends meet. So I imagine there were a lot of shops who were doing advertising using the co-op that now just won't advertise.
Yeah. Well, we see it coming too. I mean, I didn't mention any of it, but one of the big things I noticed in the DC previews, there are a ton of young kid graphic novels. Diana, Princess of the Amazons, Green Lantern, Legacy. Not that one. That's a Black Label. No, not the Legacy, the one next. But no, then there's Wonder Woman, Warbringer. These are somebody asked me, about are comic books that lucrative? I said, you know what? It's a dying breed. You're selling to old farts like me who are used to buying month after month and love doing it. And we see it. Marvel with IDW, we're not enough to support these multi-conglomerate chains. I don't think we were back when I had my big store in the 90s. That was a heyday of comics. Even McFarlane said, hey, you guys want exclusives, but it's not worth it for me to do an exclusive just for you. I lose money at it. And he's not wrong.
Toys, though.
Yeah, but he also brought up the point that my Spawn sales are helping support all the little comics that are pushing its thing. So yeah, go back to last week's podcast, and if you're a creator, yeah, it is up to you to push comics. And not to go all over Cory's freaking, because I mean this is an issue we're passionate about. I had to kudos to two people on Facebook. One of them was Lance Ward, because he went to the SPX Small Press Expo, and he on his Facebook page said, hey, I'm set up. He had a nice picture of him promoting his books. That's what you do. Colleen Doran just had a wonderful book come out through Dark Horse, which I'll talk about when we get to geeking. She just mentioned, hey, I just did a story in Dial H for Heroes. Thank you for mentioning that. Totally missed it. And I read previews. I love your artwork. I'm going out to buy that issue just because you did it. Colleen Doran's an established artist. She does her Patreon. She does her promotion on Facebook. She also takes breaks when she has to get her work done. But these two creators get it. I don't care who you are. Push your stuff on your social media, on your flamin' Twitter account, on your glorious Instagram, on Facebook. Glorious. You got to do it in this day and age. That's how I got my attention. And Colleen's going to have another sale. And when I see Lance at Fall Comic Con coming up October 5th, 2019, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Minnesota State Education Building.
Because you need to get educated.
Advanced tickets on sale. The guest list is locked and loaded. They got the floor plan there. Go to www.mcbacomiccons.com. I will be there probably with my buddy Gruber working the booth, coming in the first couple hours, and then I'll just be wandering, taking pictures, checking out the stuff. And if you got anything you want to bring for the charity booth, we don't do it at the Fall Con, but I will definitely pick up anything you care to bring. Just contact me via Facebook or all that information Cory drops. He'll send me the email, and we'll have some fun. So, but anyways, on with the freaking.
Today is Batman Day, Joe. They are announcing who the new writer of Batman will be.
And?
It's not me. And I'm really pissed about that.
You guys steal every other idea we come up with. Why not let Cory do it?
Let's see here. Joe, we're doing this episode late because your books were late. Because DCB Service had a power outage at their warehouse, etc., etc.
During the holiday weekend.
DCB Service has been a little slow to get their stuff out. I order my books every 2 weeks because I can't wait. I don't go to comic shops like Joe. And I didn't get my comics last week because they had to do all the stuff for the people who had their monthly books. And those books were at least a week late, and I think some of the people got them 2 weeks late. The reason they moved back to Illinois was to kind of combat this stuff, and they're still having problems. I love DCB Service, but I think it's time to hire some more people.
Yeah, or pay a little bit more.
Joe, you know who Tim Drake is, right?
Yeah.
What's his superhero name?
Well, he was Robin. I have no idea what he is now. Red Robin?
And then he became Red Robin.
Based on the burger chain, yeah.
Right. And now he's got yet another new name.
Nightwing?
Drake.
Yeah, secret identities are so passé.
And all I can think is he's calling himself
Drake.
And the next time he sees Batman, Batman should kind of pull him aside and go, you're calling yourself Drake. You're just wearing a little domino mask on your face. And you lived in my house while you were Robin. Why are you trying to let everybody know my secret identity, you moron?
Not to mention you're going to piss off Aubrey Drake Graham, who is a Canadian rapper.
Right.
Singer, songwriter, record producer, actor. But we don't need that type of negative publicity in the comic industry, folks.
And finally, the last thing I am freaking on, Future Foundation, first issue just came out. Before the first issue came out, they told the writer issue 5 is your last issue.
Of what?
Future Foundation, the Fantastic Four spinoff. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are saying, they canceled it before it even came out. Marvel knows how their books will sell. They know what the drop is every issue. From issue 1 to issue 2, it's a 40 to 50% drop, etc., etc., etc. Issue 1 came out and sold about 40,000 copies, and they knew by issue 6 it would no longer be profitable. And if they started a new storyline, by the end of that storyline, it wouldn't be profitable, so they ended it with issue 5. There are 2 things that I want to point out about this. First off, the creator is one that Marvel's kind of pushing. Yes, he'll be able to keep doing Princeless and, make a living and stuff. But the fact that, Marvel launched this book and there was no interest shows me Marvel is putting out too many books.
This one spun out of Fantastic Four, too.
That's the second thing. Fantastic Four is selling well, but it's not a powerhouse. You're doing 3 spin-offs of Fantastic Four? No. A spin-off usually gets about half of the original's sales if it's an unknown creative team. This is kind of an unknown creative team. You knew this wouldn't sell when you solicited it. So instead, kind of do what DC's doing lately with their new books. It's okay, this is a 12-issue maxi series for their second-tier books because they know sales are going to be here. They're going to drop to here. They just know that's how it's going to be, so they can tell the creator, you're going to have 12 issues to tell your story. That way it's not cut off with, storylines dangling, etc., etc. So I think this is a sign that there are way way too many books coming out from Marvel right now. And, we talked about Marvel. Look at all the number ones again. Oh, my God. Joe, what are you geeking on?
I may have to run to Barnes & Noble. Get a free comic book day because it's Batman Day. Woohoo! But by the time you folks hear this podcast, it's too late. So Cory, I know you're very, very upset with me because I sold one of my omnibuses. However, I got two. I got off. I was bitching last week about half-price books because I ordered something online and it took a long, long time to get to me, longer than it really should have. And when you do they have like expedited shipping. So for $500, I'll get it to you overnight with a tracking number and a pat on the back saying thank you. Or if you do regular shipping, nothing. No tracking number, which is inexcusable these days. You put tracking numbers on everything. My rabbit's got a tracking number on his back. Sorry about that, Bun. I finally did get it though. And again, I don't know if I'll order again through half-price books online, because this whole idea that they don't do tracking numbers for that, I find inexcusable. But I did get a pretty good deal on the Earth trilogy, and I believe this is the Omega edition. And I still got to get the Alpha one, so I did that. Plus, in my box, I got the Joker Bronze Age Omnibus.
Isn't that a thing of joy?
Oh, I don't even want to open mine. It's so beautiful because it has not for a while, one of the hottest books you could possibly find in back issues was the Joker series they did in the 70s. And any Joker appearance was hot. And this was all because of the Michael Keaton, I was going to say Jack Kirby, but no, Jack Nicholson movie back in the 80s. And this has a ton of goodness, including the lost, previously unpunished. I'm mixing my comic series. Unpublished Joker 10. So I hope I'm back in your good graces. If not, well, I'll buy another omnibus. Speaking of half price, I did take a trip to half price because I do love half price books. And I was just bored. I was having a down day. I found two more Fables graphic novels. I got number 16 back when we visited Mind's Eye during one of their crazy sales. I got 17 and 18 for half price. So I'm only missing 22 is the last issue, so I've got 3 more to go, and I'll have the whole series. I kind of lost track after they concluded the whole the original War series line, and I thought I had ordered them, but then I discovered I didn't. So after that, I got to get Jack's Jack of Hearts collected, and I got to figure out all the crossovers. I did pick up for a crazy $10 the 25th anniversary edition of Dave McKean's Cages.
Ooh, yes.
And this was not I think they bought this somewhere because they had lots of them. So run to your half price and pick one of these up if you've never read it. I don't know if I have this in my collection. It's one of those things where you think, I thought I bought the hardcover, but who cares? $10? I mean, it was originally $30. That was a fabulous deal. So yes, half price. I'm not keen on your online, but I do like your store stuff. I also bought one of Cory, you remember the Hardy Boy books?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a series, and I believe it was Grosset and Dunlap punished it while growing up. Hardy Boys. Yeah, they punished it. That would be my new Joeism. That Marvel Punishing Company. Ooh, that could have some really fun connotations. Anyways, they published the Hardy Boys. The female version was Nancy Drew. I say that because I think, is it Netflix or CW's doing a Nancy Drew series. And they had one in was it the late 70s, early 80s? I can't remember the actors in it. Sean Cassidy was one of them. And of course, when they crossed over, it was really cool. I loved the Hardy Boys books. I should reread them just for nostalgia's sake. But one of the books that always eluded me, you always look on the back of the book and they had this brilliant, how many of these books do you own? And of course, you could go through, and I think the first one was the Tower Treasure. And the Hardy Boy Detective Handbook. Never found it anywhere. Found it. $5,
cool.
half-price books. And, obviously I don't need it, but I'm like, you know what, for $5, I can put that thing on my shelf for just memory's sake. And just remember just having fun with it. One of the places I mention every so often, we always talk about MCBA Fall Con. I try to mention as many Comic Cons coming up as possible, even though lately every time you've heard it, I've missed it by a week because I missed time when we dropped these.
Missed it by that much.
Claire is having a Comic Con 2 days ago, but one of them coming up and is Minnesota Toy Posse. And you go online. They have a closed group you can go on. Minnesota Toy Posse is just a bunch of guys who like toys. And they sell, they collect, but they're also kind. They'll say, hey, are you looking for the latest wave of the X-Men Master Series? The $20 toys. Here's a bunch at this Target. Hey, Heroes Comics got this in, or I found this at Walgreens. Or does anybody need this part? Because I want the figure, I don't need the part. Occasionally they'll mention, like, there was a flash sale from a place called Arcade Up, and it killed me because they had full-size video games for $100. You're talking the type that Cory and I grew up on, and for $100 you could get a game that plays Asteroids, Centipedes, Military Commander, Galaxian. I was at work when this flash sale popped up, but if I wasn't, I'd have been jumping over there with my pickup truck for $100. I'll put that in my room and piss my wife off royally. But so I mention it because their next one is October 20th, and it's always in Bloomington. You can Google it or just go to the Facebook Minnesota Toy Posse and ask to come in and drop our name because we like it when people drop our name. But I did go to their last one, and I bought some fun things. I ran into a guy. I didn't blow a lot of money because I didn't mention it in my freaking, but I had to buy 2 new tires for my truck because I came home. I went up to work and I found one flat, and that kind of killed the rest of my money. But don't worry, I'll be doing an eBay sale later, so go check my eBays out. But I picked up a Star-Lord from the Marvel Legends series, and he took the collector piece out of it because he wanted to build a Mantis, which is really a weird sentence I never thought I'd ever say. But he was selling the Star-Lord for $5, and I'm like, that's perfect for me because I buy a $20 figure. I don't want to open it, but for $5, I'll open that sucker. Cory, do you remember a series called Deity?
Yes.
Yeah, this was from Hyperworks back in the 90s when I had my shop. And one of the cool things they did when issue 1 came out is they had a box set. And I was talking to the guy who had it, and I said, how much are you asking for this? He said $5. I picked it up for nostalgia's sake, and probably when I'm over my nostalgia, I'll just blow it on eBay. But it had a perfect collection box set. Deity was a book from Hyperworks by Carl Astetter, Robert Napon. You're a young woman named Jamie, and it's your birthday. You're celebrating with friends in a dance club. Unbeknownst to you, now there's a good word we don't use enough, unbeknown to you, a war is being fought between forces that want to kill you and forces that want to protect you. Why? Well, there's more to you than meets the eye. No, you're not a Transformer. You stand to inherit the godlike power of Queen Zendra. So just, it was a fun series, a couple spin-offs. The original one ran 6 issues with tons of variant covers. The box set has the whole miniseries, the director's cut, a Zero, Light and Darkness, signature cards, some stickers, and this gentleman had actually had the creative team sign it, or let's see, was it? No, just Carl sign it when he was at one of our MCBA Comic Cons. So just a fun little blast from the past. I remember selling these things. I tell you, when I think I talked about a Brigade set that was in a blister pack a while back. These are things that just I mean, I didn't read Deity, I didn't read Brigade, but I remember selling these things or running around buying them because this one has the hot Spawn issue that I can sell for a lot. So after that, I did jump up. Oh, I did buy a couple other things. I found a copy of World's Finest 176 for $5. It's got Supergirl in it. This one has. Somebody must have wanted to put this in a binder because it has that 3-hole punch in it.
Ooh.
So I'm like, whatever. I'm buying it to read, and I'll buy it later. Now let's see if Cory knows about the other comic I bought, just because the cover caught my eye and I'd never heard of it. Cory, from Whitman, have you heard of OG Wiz?
Of course.
Oh my gosh!
The final book.
Let me get your dime. Here you go. 20 cents.
He was a small child who owned a toy factory, and I believe it was the last book by, was it Ogden Whitney?
It could be. They don't list the creative
Look.
team.
Yeah, they don't list the creative team.
I see John Stanley on issue 5.
That's it. It was the last comic by John Stanley.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
I actually loved that book when I was a kid because the whole idea of a child owning a toy factory. What a cool idea. And yes, it was the
That's pretty big.
last John Stanley book.
Yeah, 6 issues. They did another issue, and there was a showcase too that I ran across when I was looking this up, and I found an issue number 6 and for $1, and I said, you know what, I'll buy this to read, and I may end up hunting down the other issues. And all I can think of is, you guys are there's kind of a backlash going on in the creative world about just remakes and reboots. No, we don't need another Princess Bride movie. The first one was perfect the way it is. There's so few. Never mind. This is a great concept you could mine. Yeah, you kind of did it with John Hank's Big, but just this would be fun. Just something to pick up. Like I said, for $1, I'm willing to try anything. That's why I did that Tipsy Topsy teen. So, let's see what else I want to talk about. Oh, I went to a Saints game, which was fun. That's the minor league ball club in Minnesota, St. Paul Saints. Owned by Bill Murray as a partial owner, so you never know when he shows up. Unbeknownst to me, this was a championship game. My wife got tickets to go, and they ended up winning, which is even fun. Sports teams, you got to remember, we like to watch you play, but it's more fun to watch you win. 2019 American Association champions. First time in 15 years they've won a championship game. So congratulations to the Saints. A lot of fun. They decided to have a minute parade in front of the stadium because you know how it is when a sports team win. They have a parade, the ticker tape, and blah, blah, blah. The Saints just tweeted, hey, we're going to have a parade for 1 minute at noon. And they were gobsmacked by the amount of people that showed up. I didn't because I was at work. And I know when I go to a Saints game, I always look at what they have there to try to win. I mean, last time I was there, I got the Ric Flair robe. Woo! This time they had you remember the video game TKO?
Yeah.
They had a screenshot of that in a big poster that had been signed by none other than Mike Tyson. I went for it, and I lost.
Aww.
By $10. And I told the lady, I said, well, if it doesn't happen, give me a call. I might pick it up. I did get a call. The person who first of all, it's really shitty. If you're going to bid on something and not win, why the fuck did you bid on it to begin with? But she called and said they backed out and wanted to know if I wanted it. And you know why I had to say no?
Why?
I blew out my front tire.
Oh, okay.
And I still, if somebody miraculously buys $250 from me on eBay in the next couple of days, I'll call her back and buy it because it was just fun and kind of neat to look at. Reading wise, I read Doomsday Clock 11. Cory, have you read Doomsday Clock 11?
I have not read any of Doomsday Clock, and will do so when the book comes out.
Oh.
Because it's
late.
over a year late.
Oh, you're not kidding. And this, I mean, the reveal in 10 was mind-boggling. And number 11, I ignored all the people talking about it. And yeah, it's late enough where I have to stop and try to find my older issues and read about it. But oh my God, the ending is like, I gotta wait how many months for 12? And again, things are being revealed, things are being shown out. I don't know if this is going to tie into the rest of the DC universe, but if it didn't, this is just an exercise in dry humping. But it should, because it is amazing some of the things that they're coming out with, and I hope they carry on with it. I talked about things that I read. I read Thanos: The Infinity Conflict, which is another original graphic novel by Jim Starlin and Alan Davis. Is this supposed to be the last one?
No, The Infinity Conclusion, I think, is the name of the last one.
They basically burned Jim Starlin's bridges, so that's probably it for Jim Starlin for a while. Because I was expecting this to be it and was pleasantly surprised but concerned that, it's to be continued, which I should know, but I don't read a lot of stuff outside. I don't want things to be spoiled for me. Years ago, back when Neil Gaiman wasn't Neil Gaiman, and you could actually approach him without. Well, actually, you can approach him if you see him outside of wherever. He had a reading sponsored by Dreamhaven Books at one of the auditoriums at the University of Minnesota, and I sat in on it, and I believe I don't know if I was there to help Dreamhaven pass out flyers or what, but I just went. It was free, and he read from a short story he wrote called Snow Glass Apples. Have you ever read this, Cory?
Why, yes, I have.
Oh, he read it to me, and I was amazed. I just sat back, and his words drew pictures in my mind, and it was just one of the most incredible experiences. A decent speaker. I mean, I read, and I get the pictures in my mind. I'm always wary when somebody decides, well, I'm going to make a movie or I'm going to illustrate this, because you have the picture of how you had it in your mind. However, with Supreme artist Colleen Doran from Dark Horse, you got Snow Glass Apples, written by Neil Gaiman with Colleen Doran. This is beyond amazing. And I'm not just saying that because I am one of the billions of guys who are secretly in love with Colleen Doran, but her artwork added so much to the story. A lot of times I sit down and I read a comic book and I blitz through it, and I have to, it's like, why am I bothering? Because I'm not enjoying this. I'm just reading it as fast as I can to read it. This one I read slowly. I backed up. I reread. I gazed at the artwork. It took me a while to get into it, just like I did when I listened to Neil all those years ago, because I was like, oh my God, that's what they're talking about. I already knew what they were talking about. And the artwork and the narration was so amazing. And this is, for the price, $17.99 hardcover is just beautiful. And Colleen talked about it a lot. And when I knew it was coming, I just pre-ordered it. I told her I've already pre-ordered it. I'm dying for it. I don't know if I don't get Neil Gaiman's feeds all the time. Thank you, Facebook. So I know he was pushing it. But this is an amazing, amazing book. And if you're a Snow White aficionado, if you like Neil Gaiman, if you love Colleen Doran, and not just because she visited our comic shop way back in the day.
And watched The Simpsons with us.
I know. I would recommend definitely picking this up because, I'm just going to, what the AV Club said, like Ray Bradbury before him, Neil Gaiman writes lovely little horror stories, fairy tales, and fantasies which are familiar as they are fabulous. Stories that are never quite what the readers expect. In Snow Glass Apples, he explores the chilling possibilities of inverting the Snow White mythos. And you add in the Hugo, Bram Stoker, Locus, World Fantasy, Nebula award-winning and New York Times best-selling writer Neil Gaiman with the amazingly talented Colleen Doran. Oh, this thing is a winner. And I know I'm going to have to buy a few extra copies as Christmas gifts. Because Christmas is coming. Cory, did you get Jim Cornette's Behind the Curtain, Real Pro Wrestling Stories?
Yes, I have not read it yet.
I won't say a word. People, go out and buy Jim Cornette's Behind the Curtain, Real Pro Wrestling Stories. Utterly, utterly amazing. There are pictures in it. Jim is not a bullshitter. He backs up his stories. I read that. I don't know where it is. I'm not going to dig for it. My daughter gave me the college type book talking about the history of pro wrestling all the way back from its real days where the carnies would go from town to town to turning into a shoot after World War I and II. And Jim adds to these stories with things I've never heard of. And utterly, utterly amazing. Jim, if you're out there, come on our podcast because we love you.
I have been trying to get him.
Oh, he's a busy guy.
Through Mike Johnson to say, I want to talk, because he also has one of the biggest Silver Age Marvel conventions known.
I will sacrifice a pie in that effort. But this was an amazing book, especially for pro wrestling aficionados. And because it's from a smaller press company, IDW, if you want to call them smaller press, I would definitely, again, we're talking Christmas, buy this for your wrestling fans. Other than the fact they draw Jim with a huge forehead, and I guess he does have a huge forehead, it was a delight. And Jim, I pray you're doing another one. I pray you're writing a book. You and Jim Ross, almost anybody who was in my golden age of wrestling or even beforehand, I would love to just read their books, because I have them and I always think of flipping them, but I'm like, no, I love these too much. And it's something I don't rave near enough about, but I will be in the next couple of months. Our Star Blazers. Dark Horse shipped the first edition of the 21.99 manga. There's 7 volumes of this. Star Blazers, of course, was a groundbreaking series of manga. More groundbreaking than I realized. And when you read the behind the series scenes in this edition, you realize just how amazing it was. I discovered it, I believe, through Gruber. It's just Saturday morning on Channel 9, which was the independent channel at the time. In other words, not ABC, CBS, NBC. And it was continued. It had 2 episodes. It was about... But I remember watching.
Tried to play you off like it's the Oscars.
No, this one's not going off, because what they did, it was amazing because it was continued. It was serialized. They ran the first 2 series, and I missed the last episode in both. And it was amazing because you missed it, and then they went back to the beginning. I was like, oh shit! But I watched the whole thing. And they redid it in 2099. They got rid of some of the stuff, like there was only 1 woman on the crew. How improbable was that? The 21.99 upgraded the animation. Well, now they got the manga, and it's just wonderful. And I'm dying to get the rest of the books. They come out. I think issue 3 is in the last previews. I didn't mention it because I raved about it already. If you can catch the animated series, I know there's box sets. I've got the first 4, and I don't know if I'm going to just buy the last 3 or just go for the box set. But definitely pick it up or look at snippets online or whatever. I like me my Star Blazers. And on another, okay, I got played off. Hey, it's been 2 weeks between episodes. We got a lot of geeking. We got a lot of love to give. So let's see what Cory's got to give. Cory, what you geeking on?
I love Claritin. Claritin is, for those of us with allergies, September is the worst month. If you are someone with asthma, and you sign up for the alert, every day in September, you get an alert. Hey, this is a bad asthma day. If it weren't for Claritin, I would not be functioning, because Claritin is a decongestant antihistamine that doesn't make you tired. I just want to put that out there, because without it, I would not be able to function. Book-wise, I got my box day on Thursday. In it was the Neil Adams X-Men collection. Now, they have collected these stories before. These are, they're not quite treasury size, but they're close. Oh, this was Neil Adams when Neil Adams was Neil Adams. Tom Palmer doing the inks before Tom Palmer. Now when you see Tom Palmer... Oh, I'm getting played off. I want to thank my parents, and I want to thank my son, and I want to thank everybody who listens to the show. Good night, everyone.
Actually, I was just playing me my Star Blazers. And that's all we could do, otherwise we'll get sued.
But Tom Palmer before... Now, if you look at a Tom Palmer book, everybody, doesn't matter who he's inking, it looks like Tom Palmer drew it. But this was back when it would ink a book. Oh, this is some beautiful stuff. I also read Power Pack Grow Up. We were talking about the Power Pack Omnibus a little earlier. And this is one of those books that Marvel is putting out that it's their nostalgia book. They get older creative teams together to work on characters that they used to work on. This was Louise Simonson and June Bringman doing a Power Pack story. And it was wonderful, and it reminded me why I liked this book so much. Yes, it has superhero elements, but it's also kind of a family. I don't want to say it's a sitcom, because it's not set up joke, set up joke, set up joke. But it's a story about family. It's focused on the kids. I adored this book when it originally came out. And this issue actually just reads like a lost issue of the original series. It doesn't feel like a nostalgia pop. It feels more like, oh yeah, we're just going to get back together and do another one. So I'm liking Marvel doing these nostalgia pop books. I think every time one has come out, I've mentioned it as a geeking. I don't think that, oh, let's have Louise Simonson and June Brigman do a new Powerback series, because the time has passed, but it's nice to go back and revisit. And then the last geeking I have, there is, Joe and I have talked in the past about these conversation books. He talked about the Jim Shooter one recently. I just finished reading Steve Gerber Conversations. And it's fascinating to me because yesterday, well, Friday, we're recording this on Saturday, so yesterday, the 20th, was Steve Gerber's birthday. And I put up an essay I'd written about Steve Gerber in the past, and all sorts of people were writing about Steve Gerber yesterday. These interviews are just, they're picked from his entire comics career, including when he worked in animation. And the thing that I loved the most is at the end of the book, they have some of his posts from the discussion groups on Yahoo and other places, because he was very active online and he loved to talk about his work. He would give advice to people. He would, help people with story construction. But if you asked him about his work, he would be very honest and forthcoming about it. And as you read all of the interviews, you see that things that people said negative about him back when he, was younger in the 70s, he still felt that later on. There was one thing where they're doing an interview and they talk about how some of the people at the Marvel office say that he's self-indulgent. And he, of course, I'm not self-indulgent, blah, 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 blah. Well, it must have left a scar, because in 3 other interviews, he talks about how, well, people used to say that I was very self-indulgent. I don't think I was self-indulgent. I think I was this. But by the later interviews, it's, yeah, I was very self-indulgent because I was allowed to be. I could do stories that were more personal, and I'm just happy that other people latch onto them as well. And it shows that this guy wasn't just, a hack throwing out these stories. It goes into how these stories meant more to him than just disposable comic book stuff. I found his writing about working on the G.I. Joe and Transformers series utterly fascinating, because at the beginning, he's all hype, talking about here are the things we're going to do, and it's more than they've done in Saturday morning children's animation and blah, blah. And by the end, he's very cynical and very broken about it, to where, yeah, we're just fucking selling toys. So it's just a wonderful book. He never wrote an autobiography, but this is as close as we're going to get. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about comic books for over 2 hours.
Thank you.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
A mother said to her little boy, "Why are you making faces at that bulldog?" And the little boy replied, "Well, he started it." Swallowed my nose plug. I don't know if I can continue with it or not. I can't say a thing without my nose plug. This reminds me of a joke. No, not that joke. Another joke. And
hit my music.
I just coughed up my nose plug. Oh, glory be. That's all the jokes for now. Till next time, keep your hands to yourself. Cory, now hit my music.